right, what do you got?
I think I can prove to a judge that both of these men had the mens rea.
What the hell is a mens rea?
It's a legal term the lawyers use. It just means the intention to commit a crime.
Okay, come on, let's go.
Mens rea?
Put the cuffs on him.
How could we have gotten mens rea? We take blood? Can you do it without taking blood? We both use condoms. How is this possible? I want to see a doctor. Can I have an independent blood test?
Money!
I feel sick.
What are you doing?
Mens rea! Oh! Oh! My God!
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Cuddy say can't hang.
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
He said that he's in great pain and he wants to know if you can help him.
All right, would you tell him to just relax and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine.
Just hang loose, blood. She's gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. It's me, Legal Vices, and this is my channel, Legal Vices. And whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, however good it feels, however many times you're doing it, why ever you're doing it in the first place, and whatever you hope to get out of it, I'm glad you're doing it here. Because this is the kind of place we have. We're just having fun, and today could be the conclusion of the YNW Melly trial. It's going to be the conclusion of the court's actions, and it's going to be definitely going to be up to the jury by the end of the day. The plan, as I understand it, is the lawyers are going to give their closing statements, then they'll do the jury instructions, then they'll sequester the jury until they return with a verdict. And holy cow, the judge is already in court. That was starting on time. We'll see what's up, and then the first chance we get, we'll do the cocktail of the day. Let's see what's going on in court. Where are we at here, guys? Come on. Bring this up. Watch live. Rapper YNW Melly.
There is just one correction on the jury instructions on page 25.
Looks like there's still some jury questions that need to be corrected.
It says, first paragraph, allegation in the information. It should be allegation in the indictment. All right. That's you. You see it?
Yeah. Do you want to just cross it off for the?
That's.
So I'm going to just read it?
Yes.
All right, everybody ready?
Yes.
Yes? All right, bring jury, please.
Dang, they're not screwing around today, are they? Holy cow.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow, they're just jumping straight into it. Well, that's great. I need to put myself on hold here. Hang on. I'll be right back in. I don't know, however long it takes to clean up the mess I just made. Bye. I'll be right back.
Jury entry. Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record once again reflect the presence of the defendant, his counsel, his assistant attorney, as well as ladies and gentlemen. A few minutes ago, I had my bailiff Gary leave on your chairs a set of the jury instructions. All right. It has up at the top on the first page, it reads, in the Circuit Court of the 17th Judicial Circuit in Fort Broward County, Florida, case number 18-001872, CFA, John J. Murphy, State of Florida Plaintiff versus Jamal Devins, defendant, charged with the court. Does everybody have one of those? Yes? Yeah. So what we're going to do is read the instructions now. So we're going to start at page 3, where it says 3.1, Introduction to Final Instructions. Members of the jury, I thank you for your attention during this trial. Please pay attention to the instructions
I'm back.
I'm about to give you. 3.2, Statement of the Charge. Jamel Devins, the defendant in this case, has been accused in count 1 and 2 of the indictment of the crimes of first-degree murder.
Just in time.
7.1, Introduction to Homicide. Jamel Devins is accused of first-degree murder in count 1 and count 2 of the indictment. First-degree murder includes the lesser crime of manslaughter. Both are unlawful. However, a killing that was excusable or that was committed by the justifiable use of deadly force is lawful. If you find Anthony Williams and/or Christopher Thomas were killed by Jamel Devins, you will then consider the circumstances surrounding the killing in deciding if the killing was first-degree murder or manslaughter, or whether the killing was excusable or resulted from justifiable use of deadly force. Justifiable homicide. The killing of a human being is justifiable homicide and lawful if necessarily done while resisting an attempt to murder or commit a felony upon the defendant, or to commit a felony in any dwelling house in which the defendant was at the time of the killing.
Wait, what? There are
excusable homicide.
Defense instruction.
The
That's
killing
weird.
of a human being is excusable and therefore lawful under any one of the following 3 circumstances. 1, when the killing is committed by accident and misfortune in doing any lawful act by lawful means with usual ordinary caution and without any unlawful intent. Or 2, when the killing occurs by accident and misfortune in the heat of passion upon any sudden and sufficient provocation. Or 3, when the killing is committed by accident and misfortune resulting from a sudden combat, if a dangerous weapon is not used and the killing is not done in a cruel or unusual manner. A dangerous weapon is any object that will likely cause death or great bodily harm if used in the ordinary and usual manner contemplated by its design and construction. An object not designed to inflict bodily harm may nonetheless be a dangerous weapon if it was used in a manner likely to cause death or great bodily harm. Great bodily harm means great, as distinguished from slight, trivial, minor, or moderate harm, and as such does not include mere bruises. I now instruct you on the circumstances that must be proved before Jamel Devins may be found guilty of first-degree murder.
Okay, let's see. Let's in your head go through this and see if you prove these things.
Count 1, 7.2, premeditated murder, first degree. To prove the crime of first-degree premeditated murder, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Anthony Williams is dead. 2, the death was caused by the criminal act of Jamel Devins. 3, there was a premeditated killing of Anthony Williams. An act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. Killing with premeditation is killing after consciously deciding to do so. The decision must be present in the mind at the time of the killing. The law does not fix the exact period of time that must pass between the formation of the premeditated intent to kill and the killing. The period of time must be long enough to allow reflection by the defendant. The premeditated intent to kill must be formed before the killing. The question of premeditation is a question of fact to be determined by you from the evidence. It will be sufficient proof of premeditation if the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused convince you beyond a reasonable doubt of the existence of premeditation at the time of the killing. If you find that Jamel Dennis committed first-degree premeditated murder, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he actually possessed and discharged a firearm, you should find him guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with actual possession and discharge of a firearm. If you find that Jamel Dennis committed first-degree premeditated murder, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he did actually possess a firearm, you should find him guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with actual possession. If you find that Jamel Dennis committed first-degree premeditated murder, but did not actually possess or discharge a firearm during the commission of the offense, you should find him guilty only of first-degree premeditated murder. A firearm is defined as any weapon, including a starter gun, which is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive, the frame or receiver of any such weapon, any firearm muffler or firearm silencer, any destructive device, or any machine gun. Actual possession of a firearm means the defendant A, had a firearm on his person, or B, had a firearm within immediate physical reach with ready access with the intent to use the firearm during the commission of the crime. If you find that Jamel Dennis committed first-degree premeditated murder, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he was a criminal gang member or associate as defined below, and the aforementioned activity was committed with the intent to benefit, promote, or further the interests of the criminal gang, you should find him guilty of first-degree premeditated murder in the first-degree premeditated murder in the first degree as a criminal gang member or associate. If you find that Jamel Dennis committed first-degree premeditated murder, but find that he was not a criminal gang member or associate as defined below, you should find the defendant guilty only of first-degree premeditated murder.
Yes, these are jury instructions.
Criminal gang means a formal or informal ongoing organization, association, or group that has one of its primary activities the commission of criminal or delinquent acts, and that consists of 3 or more persons who have a common name or common identifying signs, colors, or symbols, including but not limited to terrorist organizations and hate groups. Ongoing means the organization was in existence during the time period charged in the indictment. Primary activities
Because
mean
that's not
that
at
a
all
criminal gang
important to what
spends
they're
a
doing.
substantial amount of time engaged in such activity, although such activity need not be the only or even the most important activity in which the criminal gang engages. Criminal gang associate means a person who A, admits to criminal gang association, or B, meets any single defining criterion for criminal gang membership. Criminal gang member is a person who meets 2 or more of the following criteria. A, admits to criminal gang membership. B, adopts the style of dress of a criminal gang. C, adopts the use of a hand sign identified as used by a criminal gang. D, has a tattoo identified as used by a criminal gang. E, associates with 1 or more known criminal gang members. F, is identified as a criminal gang member by an informant of previously untested reliability, and such identification is corroborated by independent information. G, is identified as a criminal gang member by physical evidence. H, has been observed in the company of 1 or more known criminal gang members 4 or more times. Observation in a custodial setting requires a willful association. I, has authored any communication indicating responsibility for the commission of any crime by the criminal gang. Criminal gang activity means A, an activity committed with the intent to benefit, promote, or further the interests of the criminal gang, or for the purposes of increasing a person's own standing or position within a criminal gang. B, an activity in which an activity in which the participants are identified as criminal gang members or criminal gang associates acting individually or collectively to further any criminal purpose or of a criminal gang. C, an activity that is identified as criminal gang activity by a documented, reliable informant. Or D, an activity that is identified as criminal gang activity by an informant of previously untested reliability, and such identification is corroborated by independent information. Electronic communication includes, but is not limited to, photographs, video, telephone communications, text messages, facsimile, electronic mail messages, and instant messages, real-time communications with other individuals through the internet or other means. Count 2, 7.2, premeditated murder, first degree. To prove the crime of first degree, premeditated murder, the state must prove the following 3 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Christopher Thomas is dead. 2, the death was caused by the criminal act of Jamel Demons. 3, there was a premeditated killing of Christopher Thomas. An act includes a series of related actions arising from and performed pursuant to a single design or purpose. Killing with premeditation is killing after consciously deciding to do so. The decision must be present in the mind at the time of the killing. The law does not fix the exact period of time that must pass between the formation of the premeditated intent to kill and the killing. The period of time must be long enough to allow reflection by the defendant. The premeditated intent to kill must be formed before the killing. The question of premeditation is a question of fact to be determined by you from the evidence. It will be sufficient proof of premeditation if the circumstances of the killing and the conduct of the accused convince you beyond a reasonable doubt of the existence of premeditation at the time of the killing. If you find that Jamel Demis committed first-degree premeditated murder, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he actually possessed and discharged a firearm, you should find him guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with actual possession and discharge of a firearm. If you find that Jamel Demis committed first-degree premeditated murder, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he did actually possess a firearm, you should find him guilty of first-degree premeditated murder with actual possession. If you find that Jamel Demis committed first-degree premeditated murder, but did not actually possess or discharge a firearm during the commission of the offense, you should find him guilty only of first-degree premeditated murder. A firearm is defined
here,
as a
you know,
weapon,
these are closing arguments.
including a starter gun, which is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive. The frame or receiver of any such weapon, any firearm muffler or firearm silencer, any destructive device, or any machine gun. Actual possession of a firearm means the defendant A carried a firearm on his person, or B had a firearm within
Oh, you mean like
immediate
right
physical
now?
reach
Okay, well, yeah,
with
right
ready
now the jury
access with the
instructions.
intent
Then they're
to use
doing
the
the
firearm
actual
during
closing
the
argument.
commission of the crime.
I misunderstood.
If you find that Jamel Demis committed first-degree premeditated murder, and you also find beyond a reasonable
playing
doubt
catch-up
that
here.
during the commission of the crime, he was a criminal gang
I didn't
member
miss super
or
chats.
associate,
They'll
as
get read
defined
when there's a
below,
break. Listen.
and the aforementioned activity was committed with the intent to benefit, promote, or further the interests of the criminal gang, you should find him guilty of first-degree premeditated murder in the first degree as a criminal gang member or associate. If you find that Jamel Demis committed first-degree premeditated murder, but find that he was not a criminal gang member or associate as defined below, you should find the defendant guilty only of first-degree premeditated murder. Criminal gang means a formal or informal ongoing organization, association, or group that has one of its primary activities the commission of criminal or delinquent acts, and that consists of 3 or more persons who have a common name, or common identifying signs, colors, or symbols, including but not limited to terrorist organizations and hate groups. Ongoing means that the organization was in existence during the period charged in the indictment. Primary activity means that a criminal gang spends a substantial amount of time engaged in such activity, although such activity need not be the only or even the most important activity in which the criminal gang engages. Criminal gang associate means a person who A, admits to criminal gang association, or B, meets any single defining criterion for criminal gang membership. Criminal gang member is a person who meets two or more of the following criteria. A, admits to criminal gang membership. B, adopts the style of dress of a criminal gang. C, adopts the use of a hand sign identified as used by the criminal gang. D, has a tattoo identified as used by a criminal gang. E, associates with one or more known criminal gang members. F, is identified as a criminal gang member by an informant of previously untested reliability, and such identification is corroborated by independent information. G, is identified as a criminal gang member by physical evidence. H, has been observed in the company of one or more known criminal gang members 4 or more times. Observation in a custodial setting requires a willful association. I, has authored any communication indicating responsibility for the commission of any crime by the criminal gang. Criminal gang-related activity means A, an activity committed with the intent to benefit, promote, or further the interests of a criminal gang, or for the purposes of increasing a person's own standing or position within a criminal gang. B, an activity in which the participants are identified as criminal gang members or criminal gang associates acting individually or collectively to further any criminal purpose of a criminal gang. C, an activity that is identified as criminal gang activity by a documented reliable informant, or D, an activity that is identified as criminal gang activity by an informant of previously untested reliability, and such identification is corroborated by independent information. Electronic communication includes, but is not limited to, photographs, video, telephone communications, text messages, facsimile, electronic mail, and instant message real-time communications with other individuals through the internet or other means. 3.4, when there are lesser included crimes or attempts. In considering the evidence, you should consider the possibility that although the evidence may not convince you that the defendant committed the main crimes of which he is accused, there may be evidence that he committed other acts that would constitute a lesser included crime. Therefore, if you decide that the main accusation has not been proved beyond a reasonable doubt, you will next need to decide if the defendant is guilty of any lesser included crime. The lesser crime indicated in the definition of murder in the first degree is manslaughter. Count 1, 7.7, manslaughter. To prove the crime of manslaughter, the state must prove the following two elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Anthony Williams is dead. 2, Jamel Devins intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Anthony Williams. 4, Jamel Devins intentionally procured an act that caused the death of Anthony Williams. Every person has a duty to act reasonably towards others. If there is a violation of that duty without any conscious intention of harm, that violation is negligence. The defendant cannot be guilty of manslaughter by committing a mere negligent act, or if the killing was either justifiable or excusable, as I have previously instructed you. Those explanations of justifiable homicide and excusable homicide are in instruction 7.1, Introduction to Homicide. In order to convict of manslaughter by act, it is not necessary for the state to prove that the defendant had an intent to cause death, only an intent to commit an act that was not merely negligent, justified, or excusable, and which caused death. To procure means to persuade, induce, prevail upon, or cause a person to do something. If you find that Jamel Demis committed manslaughter, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he actually possessed a firearm, you should find him guilty of manslaughter with actual possession of a firearm. If you find that Jamel Demis committed manslaughter, but did not actually possess a firearm during the commission of the offense, you should find him guilty only of manslaughter. A firearm is defined as any weapon, including a starter gun, which is designed to or may readily be converted to expel a projectile by the action of an explosive. The frame or receiver of any such weapon, any firearm muffler or firearm silencer, any destructive device, or any machine gun. Actual possession of a firearm means the defendant A, carried a firearm on his person, or B, had a firearm within immediate physical reach with ready access with the intent to use the firearm during the commission of the crime. If you find that Jamel Demis committed manslaughter, and you also find beyond a reasonable doubt that during the commission of the crime, he was a criminal gang member or associate as defined below, and the aforementioned activity was committed with the intent to benefit, promote, or further the interests of the criminal gang, you should find him guilty of manslaughter as a criminal gang member or associate. If you find that Jamel Demis committed manslaughter, but find that he was not a criminal gang member or associate as defined below, you should find the defendant guilty only of manslaughter. Criminal gang means a formal or informal ongoing organization, association, or group that has one of its primary activities the commission of criminal or delinquent acts, and that consists of 3 or more persons who have a common name or common identifying signs, colors, or symbols, including but not limited to terrorist organizations and hate groups. Ongoing means that the organization was in existence during the time period charged in the indictment. Primary activities means that the criminal gang spends a substantial amount of time engaged in such activity, although such activity need not be the only or even the most important activity in which the criminal gang engages. Criminal gang associate means a person who A, admits to criminal gang association, or B, meets any single defining criterion for criminal gang memberships. Criminal gang member is a person who meets 2 or more of the following criteria. A, admits to criminal gang membership. B, adopts the style of dress of a criminal gang. C, adopts the use of a hand sign identified as used by a criminal gang.
I got your hand sign right here.
Identified as used by a criminal gang. E, associates with 1 or more known criminal gang members. F, is identified as a criminal gang member by an informant of previously untested reliability, and such identification is corroborated by independent information. G, is identified as a criminal gang member by physical evidence. H, has been observed in the company of 1 or more known criminal gang members 4 or more times. Observation in a custodial setting requires a willful association. I, has authored any communication indicating responsibility for the commission of any crime by the criminal gang. Criminal gang-related activity means A, an activity committed with the intent to benefit, promote, or further the interests of a criminal gang, or for the purpose of increasing the person's own standing or position within a criminal gang. B, an activity in which the participants are identified as criminal gang members or criminal gang associates acting individually or collectively to further any criminal purpose of a criminal gang. C, an activity that is identified as criminal gang activity by a documented, reliable informant. Or D, an activity that is identified as criminal gang activity by an informant of previously untested reliability, and such identification is corroborated by independent information. Electronic communication includes, but is not limited to, photographs, video, telephone communications, text messages, facsimiles, electronic mail messages, and instant messages, real-time communications with other individuals through the internet or other means. Count 2, 7.7, manslaughter. To prove the crime of manslaughter, the state must prove the following 2 elements beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, Christopher Thomas is dead. 2, Jamel Demings intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Christopher Thomas.
Okay, folks, now he's just going to go and repeat everything he just said for the other victim. That's what they're doing. So we'll take this, we'll take a little bit to chill and relax a little bit, do our cocktail of the day, get the super chats and some of the questions that were asked. If you don't mind, we'll keep an eye on the judge here. Yeah, dang, I had a little bit of a spill a minute ago anyway, that's how we started out. But let's do this. Let's do this here real quick, and then we can talk about the jury instructions a little faster and easier than he did, I think. All right, my brain is kind of frazzled, so we'll do this as best we can. Let me bring myself up here. Anyway, welcome everybody. The judge jumped straight into this. We didn't have a lot of time to do the initial stuff. We'll do it while he's reading the second part. This is actually the fourth part of the jury instructions. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. We're moving on up in the world. Let's keep going up. And as we do every day, we do a daily cocktail. Today's cocktail of the day is a little different, little something unusual. It's called a bourbon renewal cocktail. Okay, for it only has one weird ingredient, which is creme de cassis. It's a black currant liqueur. Everything else is not too unusual. So today's cocktail is the bourbon revival cocktail. For that, you need to take about half an ounce, 1/2 ounce of simple syrup, put it in a cup with ice. I got the ice frozen here in the glass. There we go. And once you put it in the shaker with ice, then add 1 dash of bitters. I like 2. Then to that, you're going to add let's add 1 ounce of lemon juice, fresh squeezed lemon juice. Then you're going to add 1/2 ounce of creme de cassis, which is a black currant liqueur. Then you're going to add 2 ounces of bourbon. So you've got your bourbon, your lemon, your creme de cassis, and your simple syrup, and your bitters. Then all you need to do is take this and shake it up. Get it chilled. You just want to chill it a little bit. Once you've got a little bit chilled, strain it into a regular old-fashioned rocks glass with some ice. And this is your bourbon revival cocktail. Cheers. It's nice and fruity. All right, that's the cocktail of the day. Let's see how the court is doing. The court is still here. Yep, they're talking about the gang enhancement thing. All right, so what we've got, I didn't have time for the cocktail cam today. That's just gonna have to wait till tomorrow. All right, so basically what the jury instructions are, they have to go through this twice, one for each of the defendants. One for each of the victims. And what they have to do to prove premeditated murder is that the guy's dead, that his death was caused by Melly, and that it was a premeditated killing. He had to consciously decide to kill them. There's no time frame for planning it. It can be instantaneous, but there has to have been a plan at the time the murders were committed to kill them. And then there's the possibility they can either find, if they find him guilty of first-degree murder, they have to decide, was it with possession of a firearm? Was it without the possession of a firearm? Was it committed for the benefit? If he's a gang member, is it committed for the benefit of the gang? Those are the items related to premeditated murder, to first-degree murder. If they find he's not guilty of first-degree murder, then they have to go decide if he's guilty of the lesser included crime, which is manslaughter. And for that, they have to prove the guy is dead and that Melly did something. He intended to commit an act that led to the death. He doesn't necessarily have to have intended the death. If he intended the death, that's murder. He had to intend to do the act which resulted unknowingly or unsuspectingly in the deaths. So negligence or justifiable defenses are an exclusion to that. And then again, just to say manslaughter with possession, manslaughter without possession of a firearm, manslaughter related to gang activity or for the betterment of the gang, or it's just plain old simple garden variety manslaughter. That's really all that they have to show. That's what the jury instructions look like. They have to go down, check off all these boxes, and then come back with the ultimate guilty of this, guilty of that, or not guilty of anything. And Jason J kicked us off in the super chat categories with my prediction: verdict in less than 4 hours. I would agree with that. I don't think it's going to take him 4 hours. Nicholas Staros trial watch. His drink of the day is whiskey licked from the floor. No, I just kind of spilled a little bit of the creme de cassis, and sort of looked like a crime scene on the floor. It's kind of cool. I just had to get it up before the dogs got to it. Unhung Hero says, have they done closing arguments yet? Nope, they're going to be doing this right after this. And Sonia Chris, cocktail cam, as I just mentioned, I didn't have time to get to the cocktail cam today. We'll do that probably tomorrow. All right. Let's jump back into the audio here. Where is the court stream? All right. I'm sorry, I've lost my window. There we go. I found it.
1, the defendant had a conscious intent that the criminal act be done. And 2, the defendant did some act or said some word which was intended to and which did incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise the other person or persons to actually commit or attempt to commit the crime. To be a principle, the defendant does not have to be present when the crime is committed or attempted. 3.7, pleaded not guilty, reasonable doubt, and burden of proof.
Okay, now they're talking about the burden of proof.
The defendant has entered a plea of not guilty. This means you must presume or believe the defendant is innocent. The presumption stays for the defendant as to each material allegation in the indictment through each stage of the trial, unless it has been overcome by the evidence to the exclusion of and beyond a reasonable doubt. To overcome the defendant's presumption of innocence, the state has the burden of proving the crime with which the defendant is charged was committed, and the defendant is the person who committed the crime. The defendant is not required to present evidence or prove anything. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt, a speculative, imaginary, and forced doubt. Such a doubt does not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. On the other hand, if, after carefully considering, comparing, and weighing all the evidence, there is not an abiding conviction of guilt, or if having a conviction, it is one which is not stable, or one which wavers and vacillates, then the charge is not proven.
I like these instructions on reasonable doubt. I like these.
You must find the defendant not guilty because the doubt is reasonable. It is to the evidence introduced in this trial and to it alone that you are to look for that proof. A reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the defendant may arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or the lack of evidence. If you have a reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant not guilty. If you have no reasonable doubt, you should find the defendant guilty. 3.9, weigh the evidence.
Oh, can you tell them what it means to weigh the evidence? It just means to consider the evidence. Let's go. Brandon says proof of dog life and that you can pour a properly sized shot, unlike MLS Law Show. Well, thank you so much. Let's go, Brandon. We can do that.
You may find some of the evidence not reliable or less reliable than other evidence.
Thank you so much.
You should consider how the witnesses acted, as well as what they say.
Let's see.
What they said. Some things you should consider are: 1, did the witness seem to have an opportunity to see and know the things about which the witness testified? 2, did the witness seem to have an accurate memory? 3, was the witness honest and straightforward in answering the attorney's questions?
Yeah.
4,
So was the last witness, was he honest and straightforward?
5, does the witness's testimony agree with the other testimony and other evidence in the case? 6, has the witness been offered or received any money, preferred treatment, or other benefit in order to get the witness to testify. 7, had any pressure or threat been used against the witness that affected the truth of the witness's testimony. 8,
Cheers, Brandon.
the
I'm actually
witness at
using
some
a
other
measuring
time gave
cup.
a statement that is inconsistent with the testimony he or she gave in court. 9,
Thank you.
has the witness been convicted of a felony? Whether the state has met its burden of proof does not depend upon the number of witnesses it is called or upon the number of exhibits it is offered, but instead upon the nature and quality of the evidence presented. The fact that a witness is employed in law enforcement does not mean that his or her testimony deserves more
Oh, I
or
like
less
that.
consideration than
Just
that
because
of
he's a
any
cop
other
doesn't
witness.
mean his witness, his statement
Expert
is worth
witnesses
more. I
are
like that.
other witnesses with one exception. The law permits an expert witness to give his or his opinion. However, an expert's opinion is reliable only when given on a subject about which you believe him to be an expert. Like other witnesses, you may believe or disbelieve all or in part of an expert's testimony. You must consider the testimony of some witnesses with more caution than others. For example, a witness who hopes to gain more favorable treatment is, in his own case, may have a reason to make a false statement in order to strike a good bargain with the state. This is particularly true when there is no other evidence tending to agree with what the witness says about the defendant. So while a witness of that kind may be entirely truthful when testifying, you should consider his testimony with more caution than the testimony of other witnesses. However, if the testimony of such a witness convinces you beyond reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt,
Jason, I'll answer
or
this
the
later.
other
This is a good
evidence in the
question.
case does so, then you should find the defendant guilty. It is entirely proper for a lawyer to talk to a witness about what testimony the witness would give if called to the court. The witness should not be discredited by talking to a lawyer about his or her testimony. You may rely upon your own conclusions about the credibility of any witness. A juror may believe or disbelieve all or any part of the evidence or the testimony of any witness. 3.9, let's say section A, defendant not testifying. The Constitution requires the state to prove its accusations against the defendant. It is not necessary for the defendant to disprove anything.
I like
Nor
these.
is the
These are
defendant
good
required to
jury
prove his
instructions.
innocence.
These are some of the best I've ever
It is
heard.
up to the state to prove the defendant's guilt by evidence. The defendant exercised a fundamental right by choosing not to be a witness in this case. You must not view this as an admission of guilt or be influenced in any way by his decision. No juror should ever be concerned that the defendant did or did not take the witness stand to give testimony in the case. 3.10, rules for deliberation. These are some general rules that apply to your discussion. You must follow these rules in order to return a lawful verdict. 1, you must follow the law as it is set out in these instructions. If you fail to follow the law, your verdict will be a miscarriage of justice. There is no reason for failing to follow the law in this
That
case.
is the don't
All
even
of us
think
are
about
depending
jury
upon you
nullification
to make a wise
instruction.
and legal decision in this matter. 2, this case must be decided only upon the evidence that you have heard from the testimony of the witnesses and have seen in the form of exhibits and evidence and these instructions. 3, this case must not be decided for or against anyone because you feel sorry for anyone or are angry at anyone. 4, remember, the lawyers are not on trial.
They
Your
should be.
feelings
Just
about
kidding.
them should not
Really don't.
influence your decision in this case. 5, your duty is to determine if the defendant has been proven guilty or not in accordance with the law. 6, whatever verdict you render must be unanimous. That is, each juror must agree to the same verdict. 7, your verdict must not be influenced by feelings of prejudice, bias, or sympathy. Your verdict must be based on the evidence and on the law contained in these instructions. 3.11, cautionary instruction.
Yes, these are in jury instructions
Deciding the verdict
before the
is
closing
exclusively your
argument.
job. I cannot participate in that decision in any way. Please disregard anything I may have said or done that made you think I preferred one verdict over another. 3.12, verdict. You may find the defendant guilty as charged in the indictment or guilty of such lesser included crime as the evidence may justify or not guilty. If you return a verdict of guilty, it should be for the highest offense which has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. If you find that no offense has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then of course your verdict must be not guilty. The verdict must be unanimous, that is, all of you must agree to the same verdict. Only one verdict may be returned as to each crime charged. The verdict must be in writing, and for your convenience, the necessary forms of verdict have been prepared for you. They are as follows. 3.12 A, subsection A, single defendant, multiple counts. A separate crime is charged in each count of the indictment, and although they have been tried together, each crime and the evidence applicable to it must be considered separately, and a separate verdict.
So basically, he's saying they can find him guilty of
finding him guilty or not guilty as
killing
to one
one person, but not
must
guilty of
affect
killing
the
the other
verdict
person.
as to the
They're
other
not.
crime charged.
They're being tried at the same time,
The
but
verdict.
they don't have to have the same verdict. You have to make a
package I have
individual
here.
decision for each
The
one of the
verdict starts out,
charges.
has up at the top.
That's why he had to
Style
read
of
the
the
jury
case,
instructions
that's what
twice.
The style of the case, it reads, in the Circuit Court of the 17th Judicial Circuit in Fort Broward County, Florida, case number 19-001872, CF10A, Judge John J. Murphy, State of Florida, plaintiff versus Jamel Demons, defendant, verdict. Count one. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant.
This is the jury form. This is what the jury has to fill out.
Parentheses, check only one. A, the defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree as charged in the indictment. B, the defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense. C, the defendant is not guilty. Goes on further, it says, if you find the defendant guilty of any of the crimes listed above, you must answer the following questions. One, during the course of the crime committed, did the defendant, Jamel Demons, actually possess a firearm? Then you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. Goes on, paragraph 2, during the course of the crime committed, did the defendant, Jamel Demons, actually discharge a firearm? You check the appropriate box, either yes or no. Question 3, during the course of the crime committed, did the defendant, Jamel Demons, actually inflict death or great bodily harm to Anthony Williams as a result of discharging a firearm in his possession? Again, you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. The verdict form goes on. Question 4, did the state prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant committed the crime for the purpose of benefiting, promoting, or furthering the interests of the criminal gang? Again, you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. And then it goes on and says, so say we all this blank day of blank AD 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. There's a place for the four-person sign and date the verdict. Then there's a second verdict form for count 2. And again, it has a style of the case up at the top, and it reads, verdict count 2. We, the jury, find as follows as to the defendant in this case. Check only one. A, the defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree as charged in the indictment. B, the defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense. C, the defendant is not guilty. Then goes down further and says, if you find the defendant guilty of any of the crimes listed above, you must answer the following questions. 1, during the course of the crime committed, did the defendant, Jamel Demons, actually possess a firearm? Again, you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. Question 2, during the course of the crime committed, did the defendant, Jamel Demons, actually discharge a firearm? Again, you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. Question 3, during the course of the crime committed, did the defendant, Jamel Demons, actually inflict death or great bodily harm to Christopher Thomas as a result of discharging a firearm in his possession? And then again, you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. And it goes on.
Karen, this one is Strawberry, and that's
beyond a reasonable doubt,
down here behind the glass. That's
committed
Yoda.
the crime for the purpose of benefiting,
Yoda and Strawberry.
promoting, or furthering the interests of the criminal gang. And again, you check the appropriate box, either yes or no. It goes on further, it says, so say we all this blank day of blank AD 2023 at Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. And again, there's a spot at the bottom for the 4 persons to print their name and sign and date the verdict. Is there any objection to the instructions of published in open court by the state?
Yeah.
By the defense?
No, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the second page of the instructions. It's called Closing Argument 2.7, and it reads as follows. The state and the defendant have now rested their case. The attorneys now will present their final arguments. Please remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence or your instruction on the law. However, do listen closely to their arguments. They are intended to aid you in understanding the case. Each side will have equal time, but the state is entitled to divide this time between an opening argument and a rebuttal argument after the defense has given its closing argument. Madam State?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I can get up here before you and say the defendant is guilty of murder in the first degree. I can say that.
Damn, they're just
through
pumping it
16
out
days
this
of
morning.
testimony.
Jeez.
And because back when you first started here, some of you as early as April 10th, you agreed to follow the law. And the law is clear that this defendant committed 2 counts of first-degree murder. I now have the
Civil law
opportunity
occurred in the
to
chat. Well done,
explain
Kurt.
all of the evidence, because sometimes you get it piecemeal. What does this piece mean? What does this mean? So this is where we have the opportunity to show you how everything fits together. So I want to start, but I also want to thank you for showing up. You received a summons. You complied with it. You came to the courthouse, and you decided to do your civic duty. We appreciate that. As I said before, we cannot do our jobs, and this judicial system does not work without you being here.
Counsel, can I see Sidebar?
All right, they're doing a sidebar, which is perfectly timed. Thank you so much for doing the sidebar. Lisa Franceschi says, I need your whiskey sour recipe. But the whiskey sour recipe, I can send it to you on Twitter. I saw your tweet. But you can also go. Wow, there was something so serious they're giving the jury the boot. They're kicking the jury out to talk about something. This should be spicy. This should be a little spice. Anyway, I can tweet it to you, but also you can go to my main page and go to the shorts tab. And if you go down the shorts, there would be the whiskey of the day. The whiskey sour recipe is there in short form, or you can do the search function on my page and search for the whiskey sour. But I'll also tweet it to you if that's what you want. And also, let's go, Brandon says, I have 2 requests. If you'll indulge me, 1, take a shot of something tasty, and 2, can we put a plug in for the Broken Baker? He needs some sub/watch hours. He's a professional juror in Denmark because they are weird. Yes, they do have professional jurors in Denmark. Don't leave Pop a new tab. Subscribe. Check it out. He's usually still going by the time we wrap up, so we may just kind of raid him tonight. But yes, the Broken Baker is a good guy. Talked to him a couple of times. He's done a few things with Nicholas and other people. The Broken Baker is a good man. So yes, we can definitely give a shout out to the Broken Baker. Just go over there, give him a subscribe and like, and don't forget to like and subscribe to me too, because Got to pimp. If I'm pimping others, I got to pimp myself. Currently, we've got 678 people here in chat and 300 likes. More than half of you haven't done your job. Get down there and hit that like button. Smash that like button and take our like and subscribe poll. Currently, 62% of you say life in prison. 21% of you say death. And 1% of you say not guilty. Fly, be free. But thank you so much, Brandon Lesker. I still have some of my cocktail of the day in my cocktail glass. So I have to. Where did I put my? So I have to go back to the measuring cup to pour my shot. Thank you so much for that, Brandon. By the way, it is muchly appreciated. You're a good man, a great supporter. You do some amazing super chats. I imbibe, and also you're a mensch. You'll be a man before your mother for drawing attention to other smaller channels, such as the Broken Baker, who is a good chap, a good man, and go check him out. Cheers. Well, you said something tasty. I just have Evan Williams bottled in Bond. That's just sort of what's within arm's reach. Not necessarily tasty, but it'll do in a pinch. All right, some other things that people brought up. Rock says, wow, I'm glad I don't have to serve on a jury. If A, then B, but not C. If C, then not D, so it can't be A. Are jury instructions always this involved? These jury instructions were amongst the most simple that I've seen. As far as jury instructions go, they were quite simple and quite straightforward. Some of the other ones, the last case we did, the Rudolph case, I believe those jury instructions, they were 25 pages, 26 pages long, something like that. It was an ordeal, and it was very, very involved. So yeah, these were actually some pretty simple things, but all of the jurors have the instructions. They get to read them. They get to go through them. They get to check off what they need to check off. All right. Speaking of long cuck, we need to drop the cuck cage here in just a minute. And Kim Walker asks, what is your favorite? Oh, let's just get rid of them altogether. Go away. All right, me and the dog. Kim Walker asks, what is your favorite part of trials? I like the defense arguments because the prosecution is going to say and do whatever they need to do to get their stuff in. But I like the defense because the defense are the underdogs. And, nobody expects the defense to win. I like to hear the defense arguments. Let's go. Brandon asks, where can I get a nice jigger for Helm? They've got some nice, Amazon is the obvious answer. If there's not a place to go get them in your area. For my birthday, my Russian friends, they gave me an amazing professional tumbler. They gave me like a super high quality wine bottle opener and just a regular bottle opener. And they gave me this jigger, which I had to cheat and go online to see, because I was curious, because this has some heft to it. It's got a lovely bamboo handle. It's from Soho House, and it was part of the set. It cost about $100. And so, love my Russian friends. And for my birthday, they said they gave me about a $200 bartender set, which was amazing. But yeah, you just get a nice one. If you want to make sure they're doing good shots, get the ones with the measuring lines on them. I've got my little measures. It's got the little measuring lines. That's the best way to keep people honest. All right. Okay, we already did that one. And you have, as I mentioned, that one. All right. Thomas Stratford said, guilty. Death automatically gets tossed if not unanimous. That is not true in Texas anymore. Texas recently passed a law, and I believe Melly is the first person to be actually tried under this new law. If not, he is very, very close to being the first. Now, currently, you can be sentenced to death in Florida if 8 of the 12 jurors find you deserve the death penalty. Death penalty does not have to be unanimous in Florida anymore. And that was because of the Parkland shooter. The Parkland shooter, 9 of the 12 jurors voted for death, which meant they didn't get the death penalty because at that point it was unanimous. And the governor said, well, wait a minute, 9 out of 12 said it was unanimous. Well, now we need to make it so like 8 out of 12 can decide, because 9 out of 12, 3 people, they can derail the whole thing. So yeah, in Florida now, where this trial is, it only takes 8 of 12 jurors to kill you. The government can take away your life on a vote of 8 to 12. Florida has this new death penalty law. So yeah, it's a new thing. It's there. And let's go, Brandon, again with the big super chat. Big enough to be read again. Yeah, take a shot of something tasty. As I took Evan Williams bottled in bond because it was here. It's 50%. So hey, woohoo! On the road to liquor with 50% alcohol. And plugging the Broken Baker. Hope y'all went and checked Broken Baker out. Pretty cool dude. I like the guy. He does a lot with the MLS Law Show. Nicholas, I've hung out a bit. And Nicholas Starov, Trial Watch, says, yes, please redirect to Baker. Scandinavians got to stick together, man. Vikings forever. Flux. I forgot to hit like. Take my penance. Oh, your penance is just to be whipped soundly, young lady. Anyway, moving right along. Speaking of penance, everybody that We're still at 696 viewers, but only 336 likes. Come on, people, hit that like button. But see, this is the interesting thing. We have 340 likes, but 603 of you have voted in the like and subscribe poll. 300 of you are no good, low down, dirty, rotten, stinking cheats. You're sneak thieves. You're scallywags because you took the poll without actually hitting the like button. Your penance is to get down there and do what you were fucking supposed to do from minute one. Hit that like button. I'm just having fun with y'all. Please do me that favor. Hit that like button. We can be up to 600 likes. Boom, like that. Get us out into the YouTube algorithm. And you don't have to hear me bitching about it. So if you want me to stop bitching about the likes, hit the damn like button. Get us up to 600. 700 would be great, but I would accept 600 at this point in time. And then take our like and subscribe poll. Guilty death, guilty life imprisonment, or not guilty, fly and be free. All righty. Wow, we've had a lot of people here in chats here. Uncivilized hitting dislike. Blah. Well, that's okay. This isn't America. This is actually Korea, but internet is kind of America. So yeah, whatever. Lol. Jeff, I vote no on those just to be a pain in the ass. Hey, it's up to you. Just vote and make sure you hit that like button before you vote. That's all. I don't give a shit how you vote on my stupid poll. Yeah, I mean, obviously my poll is the most awesome poll in the internet, but double entendre incoming. I just want you to hit the like and like my poll. That's all I care about. Please hurry and come back. Long grind, please. Please hurry and come back. Be like Bronca, threaten to stop the stream. Yeah. Well, see, I can't threaten to stop the stream because more than 50% of you have actually hit the like button. Not much more than 50%, but more than, Bronca's, if you're not going to do 50%, I'm out of here. I'm not going to waste my time. Give it 50% or I'm just going to shut the stream down. I don't care. But unfortunately, you're over 50%, so I can't do that. What if we enjoy your bitching? Well, then I'll stop bitching just to annoy you. I'll only start bitching again if you give me up to 600 likes. Yeah, right. Laurie, and just hit the like. Saw the chat. I missed comments. Nicola Maxwell. We always hope, Nicola, we always hope you feel better. It's no fun if Nicola feels bad. Nicola's our lovely little Scottish lass who keeps all you other degenerate mods in line. Oh, hell, everybody. So where are we? Where are we in this? Let's kind of do this basic thing here. We've got the jury instructions out of the way. God only knows what they were talking about. It is incredibly unusual to not only have a sidebar, but also boot the jury out of the courtroom during closing arguments, let alone just decide you're going to take a break right at the beginning of the closing arguments. This is kind of rare, so something is happening there in court. But I think we need some sort of in-chat poll. In-chat poll. What should we do for in-chat poll? Okay, let's do this. Let's do a Melly poll. For those of you that have followed it for more than one day, 1, if Melly looks better in a turtleneck. 2, if Melly looks better in a suit and tie. I think he looks better in a turtleneck, so I'm doing 1. 1 for turtlenecks, 2 for ties. That's how lame I am. We're just doing that. Raven Liberty has morning sickness. No! Shut up, JD. JD Buck, you're going to join Unhung Hero in the penalty box. Unhung Hero knows why he's in the penalty box, but you're going to join him there. Unhung Hero should probably still be in the penalty box from the Taylor Shabusiness, the reference he made yesterday, the rigor coitus thing that he mentioned yesterday. He should still be in the penalty box for that, let alone the shit he pulled at the beginning of the chat today. But you just join him over there. Raven Liberty definitely does have morning sickness because you can't get a robot Terminator pregnant, dumbass. Oh, and I guess by way of what's going on. Wait, what the hell is that? All right, looks like we're back in chat here. Looks like the court is back. I don't know what this is all about, but let's go. Let's get back into the courtroom. The courtroom. All right.
Why does there need to be cover-up? Because there was a murder that was committed, ladies and gentlemen, that's why. There were 2 murders that were committed. And so from here, we're going to talk about and explain what we have, right? So Detective Moretti and the Miramar Police Department have to answer 4 questions. Who, what, when, and where.
Notice not why.
And so for the where, I want to start with where did the lethal shots come from?
Melly in the back of the
and let's start and focus on that part of the
firearm. Dun, dun, dun.
So the where,
you win clue.
We looked to Chris Williams. If you remember, Sergeant Williams came in and testified and showed you how Blue Star works, showed you how shooting reconstructions are done with the trajectory rods. This explained how Miramar had made a good attempt, but they lacked training. So he came in and went through and is able to explain, as an expert in shooting reconstruction, what happened in this car. So we're going to start on the trajectory rods. If you recall, on the outside, the most important aspect of the ones on the outside of the car is they show that this was not a drive-by. That they're coming in at 90 degrees, that there's no keyholing. If you remember, you learned about keyholing, that would be an angle of entry on that. So he then showed you the Blue Star. And if you recall, ladies and gentlemen, this chemical reacts no matter how many years later, no matter what attempt at cleanup is done. The chemical is still going to react to the presence of the blood. So then you have
the Hungry Viking, new member, woo, woo, new member of the Clean and Sober crew. Thank you, congratulations, welcome.
And that reaction, ladies and gentlemen, tells you that someone is sitting in the seat.
Yes.
Because, as Detective Williams illustrated, it's where the Blue Star isn't. So there is no blood.
So someone is sitting in the rear driver's side seat because there is no blood where the body was.
There's no blood where their legs would have been, and you can see on the V that's indicated on that. And there's no blood on the back of the seat. So, ladies and gentlemen, what does that tell you?
Dun, dun, dun.
The killer was sitting there. And there's no blood because something was blocking it from getting onto that area of the car.
If you know, you know, right, Flux?
So what do we know as well from this car? We know that there was also that this door was closed. How can that be said? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the Blue Star here shows that this door was shut because there was blood on this door handle. You have from this as well the headliner. So the headliner shows directionality. The headliner shows the way Anthony Williams' head was positioned when he was shot. That's one aspect of it. That DNA that was tested is all Anthony Williams, but we'll get to that. So the DNA, very strong support. 51.2 septillion times more likely to be that of Anthony Williams than any unrelated individual in the world.
That
was from Kurt Rhodes.
That's pretty much a dead
match.
match.
DNA.
Dead being the operative
how
word.
DNA is done,
Dun, dun,
how
dun.
everything works. So now putting those two things together, you can say, and the evidence shows, Anthony Williams, the way his head was in that Jeep, is that he is sitting in this front passenger seat, and as you can see, all the blood is dripping down the back of the seat. That tells you, ladies and gentlemen, and from the angle of entry when we get to the medical examiner's information.
It's good enough for me, Chopper. We're starting with Tailorships business on Monday. Do not miss the Tailorships business trial.
Then we have One of the
murder,
things that Detective
massacre of a corpse,
shirt of
molesting a corpse, all the goodness
If you
on
recall,
Monday.
there
Don't
is a
miss it.
spot of blood on the front of the shirt. That blood, as Kurt Rhodes then told you, belongs to Anthony Williams. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? That during the course of this shooting, Cortland Henry has his back against the driver's seat and is driving wearing this shirt when the shooting occurs. You know from
But to
that,
have someone's head blown off
he
right
is not
next
the
to
shooter.
you
Why?
is
Because if
pretty
he
good.
was the shooter, the
To only
angle
get a
to
couple
get that
spots
wouldn't
of blood.
have the blood on the front of the shirt. It would have it coming across the driver's side and towards the side of the shirt, not the front. So on here you have the blowback coming there, and that's, again, 32.2 septillion times more likely to be the DNA of Anthony Williams. So then we have the back of the shirt. And so if you recall, the blood on the back of the shirt is right here. And that blood, Christopher Thomas, a single source profile. So what does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? That tells you that Cortland Henry didn't fire the fatal shot for Christopher Thomas. Here's why. That blood is coming from Mr. Thomas when he is shot. The blood's only moving like that, as you heard from Sergeant Williams, when there is a pulse, when there is pressure. Remember the garden hose analogy that he used and talked about? That's when you're getting the blood that's going to be coming out of the body. And on that, so from there, you know, Cortland Henry is ducked over and flinching away from Christopher Thomas. So he cannot get that shot on Christopher Thomas from where he is sitting in the driver's seat. Even if he was in the back seat. Let's argue that for a second.
You are correct.
To get
Rigor
the blood
coitus
there,
would be a great killer death metal
He would
band
have to have
name.
been completely turned facing backwards to Mr. Thomas and then turned and shot over his shoulder to get blood on the back of his shirt.
That's
It's
not me clearing my throat.
reasonable inside of a car. What is reasonable is that he's driving, the shot happens to Anthony Williams in the back of the head, blood gets on the front of his shirt. He flinches, comes down, shot happens to Christopher
Bob and
Thomas,
weave. Bob and weave.
blood gets on the back of the shirt. So that was the other aspect that we learned from Anthony Williams, because there was the entrance and the exit wound. So from there, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell, again, the side-to-side orientation of the head, because that front passenger
I know the
window
truth. And
is
Kurt,
blown.
uncivil law, knows the truth. There's only one person, one
tells you
thing, one creature that
that
could
his head
have
was
bobbed
not
and weaved
upright,
like that, that could have
but it was
floated
leaning
like
over
a
to the
butterfly,
side.
stung like a bee.
Recall,
The only person
the
that could have committed
entrance
this murder
on
is
Mr.
the
Williams,
legendary bee
that's behind his
fish.
left ear, and the exit
The bee
is up here in
fish
his
did
front.
it.
If he was sitting up and awake and knew what was going on, you would expect to find a projectile in the headliner and the roof of that Jeep. But you don't. Instead, you know, based on his head angle, that it goes out the window, blows out the glass. For Christopher Thomas, he is in the rear. So what do you know about Christopher Thomas's wound? That it's coming in at almost 90 degrees on the left side of his face, and that there is stippling. You learned about stippling, the imprint of unburnt gunpowder into the skin of a living human being. Powder tattooing is also called. So on Christopher Thomas, you learned from
Hepatitis.
Sergeant Williams,
If you know, you know.
as well as from the medical examiners, that the firearm that inflicted that wound was approximately 3 inches to no more than 3 feet. Sergeant Williams said his estimation is no more than 12 inches away. And so why is that important? Let's go back and argue the Cortland Henry.
No, I disagree,
If
Young
Cortland
here. We'll
Henry
talk
was
about
making
this
these
as soon as
shots
we can.
From the driver's seat.
Well, I
you
mean,
would
she does
expect
look good.
Anthony
I disagree with the
Williams to
first
be
part of her
covered in
statement.
stippling.
The last part I agree with.
Because they're that much closer and nothing would be blocking or impeding that shot. But if the shot is instead coming from the rear passenger side, you're not going to have that same stippling on Anthony Williams because the seat's in the way. Cortland Henry, there is nothing blocking it, so you have the stippling. So ladies and gentlemen, that's one of the things that you would notice, and the differences that show that why it could not have been Cortland Henry in the driver's seat with this weapon. We know it can the backseat passenger, it could have been, because there is stippling. If it was the backseat passenger was shot by the driver, you wouldn't see that pattern of stippling because they couldn't get close enough to make that pattern in that imprint. So then we have all the drive-by on the trajectory rods that we talked about briefly. But this one is important because this is talking about strike K. So why is strike K important, right? Strike K.
She's doing a very good job. Just present just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts.
The rear door. That tells you that that door was open when that drive-by was staged.
Oh yeah,
Because
I'm not
as
going
you
to put
heard
in the
from Sergeant
rear door
Williams,
while doing a
If
drive-by.
this was actually a drive-by, this is what you would have seen. Strikes coming in at different angles, at obtuse angles. There would be angles of entry that would show either a pattern of speeding up or slowing down. But instead, you have them coming in at 90 degrees. And that goes for the front, on the driver's side door, the rear driver's side door, and then you have strike K going across. And remember, this is, Chris Carter took this picture that shows you where strike K impacted this door. If this door had been closed, you would expect it to be going into the speaker. That's where you would expect it if it had been a closed door. That's not what happened. Also, if that had happened during a drive-by, whoever was sitting in that
I think
rear
it's the long crime
driver's
sound guy.
side passenger seat would have had a projectile right through their knees.
Yeah.
That was
Whoever is
half of
clearing
that
their
one.
throat has the best microphone of anybody in the
Talking about
courtroom.
as well on the driver. If you recall, ladies and gentlemen, projectiles are found underneath the brake pedal. You don't see any injuries on Mr. Henry. He got out of that car too. So the shots from the back of the car, same angle of entry. They're not coming from the side. They're not coming in like there's any difference. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I have to talk about the medical examiner's information. I know it's difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a picture up.
I know you're
briefly, then I'm
stupid
gonna
and
do a
can't
blank
figure
slide
this
to
out
talk
yourself, so I'm going to dumb it
So
down for your
everyone-
ignorant asses.
I'm not trying to traumatize anyone. It's part of the case and it's evidence, so I apologize. So as you've learned, Anthony Williams' autopsy was conducted by Dr. McDougall. Dr. McDougall, if you remember, had COVID. She came in and testified. So again, we have Anthony Williams. What did you learn during the course of Anthony Williams' autopsy? You learned that this is one of 3 times that Dr. McDougall could ever testify what was the fatal shot and which shots were postmortem.
Oi, Dr.
And
McDougall.
so I'm going to move
Dr.
on. The next
McDougall.
picture is going to show the fatal shot.
Sorry to all you
and
spots.
A is the entry wound, and B is the exit wound. And again, that shows the angle in which his head was positioned. And also it shows the lack of stippling, showing that that firearm was further away than that of Chris from the wound that
Of course
was
it's not
inflicted
me.
on
I know how to
Christopher
mute my
Thomas.
mic. I'm a professional.
So
I've
then I'm
had
gonna show you
years
the
of training
comparison.
in radio to know when to hit the mute button.
The difference with the postmortem.
I just kind of forget when to
Where it's
unmute.
white,
That's my
there's
my
no
problem is
hemorrhaging.
unmuting.
There's no signs of life, signs of bleeding on these wounds. And these are the ones, if you recall, to his shoulder and to his torso. And so the one from his torso, which is B, came in through the side
Where were
of
the
car
injuries? Head,
and went into
shoulders,
his
knees,
lung.
and torso. Knees
And
and
if you recall, the
torso.
one that's like
Head,
C
shoulders, knees,
came
and
from one of the
torso.
shots through the back of the car and into his shoulder.
I blame Let's Go Brandon for that being funny. I've
Moving
had
on
2 drinks
to
on an
Dr.
empty
Sodders
stomach.
with Christopher Thomas. As to Christopher Thomas, you learned about the stippling and the pattern that's on them. You learned the distance determination, and you learned that the
I have
wound
problems.
through his head was the one that caused his death. And that was the one for which he was alive. You learned that when you're stippling, those are those tiny black implanted bits of gunpowder. So if you recall from George Bello, he drew the cone.
Oh, it was in the States, in
as
the northern Utah
parts
market.
from the firearm that are expelled. You
Top
have the
40,
projectile that goes forward, and then you have the cloud that
heavy
gets
metal
increasingly
and,
bigger as it travels away
AOR
from the
all
muzzle
over
of
the
gun.
road.
The example, if you take a handful of dust, sand, and a golf ball. You learn the golf ball is going to go the farthest because it has the most mass. It has the most weight to it. So the most energy can be transported to it. The golf ball is like your bullet. The sand is your unburnt powders of gunpowder. It's going to travel, not as far, but it has more mass, so more energy can be transferred to it than that of the
Grease
dust.
me up,
The
woman.
dust falls out quickly. That's why we can say it's not 3 inches, but that's why they can say it's less than 3 feet. From
It's
the
only
medical
3
examiner.
inches. That sucks. Or doesn't suck, as the case may be.
So going to the wounds on his back. Again, no signs whatsoever of any blood, hemorrhaging, and any of those
No,
wounds.
we're joking and we're yucking it up here, but she's actually doing a very,
projectiles
very good job
that intersect his lungs. You heard Dr. Sauter testify
of reporting the
that
facts
the lungs
as they
bleed
were, and as it
profusely
shows who was where and what
if a person
and
is
what they
born.
were doing. This is actually a very good
So, ladies and gentlemen,
closing argument.
from all of this,
Why do I have the hiccups on
at
that?
this point, the state has established that there was someone in that rear seat. Someone who is in that rear seat is the person who committed this murder. And so now the question is who? So I'm going to show you
Law and
now
Lumber Robin
why
Chud. Wait, I
state
tuned
has
in and we're
proven
talking about golf. I thought this was a
Who
murder. We were
was
talking about a
phenomenal.
murder trial until you fucking showed up, and then we started talking about golf,
So we have the
Mr.
studio
Law,
here.
Lumber, and Golf. It's all your
This is
fault.
going to go through and you can track the defendant wearing that lyrical lemonade sweater.
Good to see you, Rob. Rob, check
All
your
the way
damn
down
DMs on your
to
Twitter once in a fucking
the
blue
Jeep.
moon, please. Thank you
Where
very
he
much.
gets in
Peace.
the spot the murderer
Love
sat.
you, Rob. You're a good man. Thank you for being here.
It's important to notice, ladies and gentlemen, that phone. Always, always, always in his hand. He doesn't let go of it, still in his right hand as he's going to go get in that rear driver's side seat.
The rear driver's side seat
Same
where
with
the
that
fatal
satchel.
shots came from. And remember, that was what the
Recall, ladies
last
and
witness
gentlemen,
guy said,
that
that
satchel
he lost
is the
his
one that you
phone.
see
He got out of the
Christopher
van. He
Thomas
didn't have his phone.
Are
The,
never
the
recovered.
prosecution is just showing you that he
So they were taken out of the
never
car.
forgets where his phone is.
By the defendant. So let's talk about the mobile records and the phones and why this is important. Okay? So the question is, are the phones themselves, do they know where they are? And then does the network know where the phone is? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the exhibits that
Well,
was put
that's
in. And
that's
this is
entirely
the
up to
phone
Law
of
and
Mr.
Lumber
Evans
whether he wants to be
at
on the stream or
3:18
not.
a.m. If you will notice that there is right here a camera icon, and that is located at 805 Northeast 4th Avenue, because that's the camera from the studio that you just watched. And the blue pin is where the network thinks the phone is. Is it perfectly precise? No. But is it accurate? Yes, within a football
The
field.
prosecutor is being
Right, we learned
dry
that.
but effective.
Less than 78 meters is the range on those bands.
She's
for the
reporting
timing
just the
advance.
facts, only the
But
facts,
this
nothing but the
isn't
facts,
timing
man.
advance. This is where the network thinks the
It's not
phone is.
dynamic, but it's factual.
Ladies and gentlemen, the phones work. You know the phones work because in your daily life, when you need to go anywhere, you go into a mapping app and you put an address in. You don't have to know where you are to get somewhere because the phone knows where you are.
Stupid dogs.
These are things that you use on a daily basis. It's common sense. The phones work Because you've used them. We've relied on them for years
Dog butt.
to show exactly how to get someplace. Look, in a populated area like this where there's multi-story buildings, okay, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to say precisely where a phone is. You can order a pizza by sending a drop pin. The phones work, ladies and gentlemen. We rely on them in our everyday life. So let's go and talk about the T-Mobile and the Sprint records. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm putting up here is what I believe the evidence reflects.
Oh,
This
don't
doesn't
say
go
that.
back.
Say, I put this up
You don't
because
get to
the
take a
evidence
copy of
shows
into the
this.
back,
Be
but this is
assertive.
all things that are in evidence. This is a summary of them.
Don't say you
So
believe
these
that. Just
are
say
all
this
the
is what
phone
the evidence
numbers
shows.
that
Be
were in
assertive.
use in October of 2018. I am not suggesting they are still being used by these individuals. So at this point, the state has established, based on the business records from Sprint, Christopher Thomas, 772-713-2341. Anthony Williams, 954-248-9081. Mr. Demons, 772-713-9807. Cortland Henry, 561-720-3210. Jamie King, the mother of Mr. Demons, 772-501-6942.
That's funny.
Jameson Francois, track, the manager, 954-376.
You have to see Strawberry's chicken legs.
Frederick Givens, the Louisiana-based rapper who lived the next community over, 225-529-5054. And then Rontavious Withers, one of the other individuals in the red Mitsubishi, 954-371-7895. So from these phone numbers and those records are where we're getting the information as to where the people work. And ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to go through and look at those records. Look at who the subscriber is. Jamie King was paying for the phone of Anthony Williams and Jamel Demons. Doesn't mean she was using it. In fact, she's listed under the billing information, and that's her number. So you have that, and that's the 772-713-9807. And you can tell the date the service began, November 30th, 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important to look at these things and things that start before the murder. Because when people are creating email accounts, when they're setting up social media, when they're buying phones years before, they're not trying to hide anything at that point. So I submit to you that those are things that are reliable because there's no motive at that point to lie. So we have, again, like I said, she's under the billing for Miss King. So we have Cortland Henry. And so if you recall, Detective Moretti talked to you about Cortland Henry because it was a question of, it's so weird he doesn't have a phone. Well, you learned that the phone that he had was a pay-as-you-go phone. So it was a minute phone. And you also learned that every single phone call that came into that phone on October 26th of 2018 went straight to voicemail. What's a reasonable inference, ladies and gentlemen? The phone wasn't on. He didn't have minutes, or it was broken. That's what those records show. They don't show Mr. Henry making a ton of phone calls and passing the phone off to someone else. No, they show a phone that was not operating. So looking at the CDRs, so this is from Mr. Demons, the 9807 phone number.
Whoa, that's a weird one. There's the odd buffering. All right, that's different. We haven't buffered for ages and ages and ages.
What I've done, 840, 34 at the top, that's going to be the, but for the time in question, October 26, 2018, you subtract 4. That's the same whether you're looking at the CDRs, whether you're looking at the Facebook or Instagram records. So that way you can help and cross-reference to see what's going on with an individual phone.
Thank you for being here, Steve Gosney. Steve Gosney was visiting in chat here for a moment. We love Steve.
And when the
Thank you,
social
Steve.
media is being accessed. So if you recall, ladies and gentlemen, we learned that the 805-610, we learned that the 805-637-7249, if you see an incoming phone call, and then that immediately outgoing to that number, it says it goes to voicemail. So right there, you have at 5:03 a.m., Jamie King calling the phone of Jamel Demons, her son, and being sent straight to voicemail.
He was busy murdering people, is the implication.
From Frederick Gibbons.
Sorry, can't come to the phone right now. I'm murdering people. Please leave a message to the beep. Leave your name and number, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. Beep.
Incoming call. Only 11 seconds. And then Jamie King again sent to voicemail. So let's talk about the surveillance footage. And I know, I warned you ahead of time, there are some parts of this that are incredibly boring, utterly tedious, but they're important. And sometimes it's the smallest details that show that, look, this is what it says it is. So you have here 3:35 a.m., 36 seconds. And as you recall, this is the camera that sits on 595 on the entrance and exit to the express lanes. We learned from Detective Moretti that the express lanes toll camera all the way out past 136th Street. So ladies and gentlemen, from here, you know from the studio at 3:19 a.m., we're now 3:35, 16 minutes later. We have 2 cars, and you can go and pull this up. And if you need any assistance with doing that, we'll be happy to bring it back up in court and show it to you. You have 2 cars, and you can watch. So the top lanes are looking east towards Fort Lauderdale. So when you watch these videos, you'll see 2 cars that come here on the eastbound, and then they're going to pop up down here on the westbound camera, and they're heading west. And ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, if you watch these 2 cars, one red and one red, you will see them come up here and go to the left.
There's a fucking mute button. Use it.
Over to I-75 South. You can see here the lights going to the Sawgrass Expressway up to the Panther Arena. But if you watch those 2 cars,
that is correct. I would never actually dox a tail.
They go over to the left, head south towards Miramar Parkway. And so what you've learned, again, we have the camera icon, and then we have where the phone suggests.
Would never cut a dog's tail, never cut a cat's claws, never declaw a cat, never dox a dog's tails or ears.
Minus.
It's horrific.
We then have McDonald's, 3:47:56 and
McMurder.
3:46:57. So 1 second apart on those 2 cameras. And there, remember we saw the red car go first, then the gray Jeep on 595. You're looking here, red car, gray car. So on surveillance footage.
Now, bulldogs have shitty skin. They're allergic to everything. They have skin problems.
Puts up surveillance cameras.
Strawberries, bullet holes. It's just
They're not there
dry
for the benefit
skin. It's
of
like
law enforcement.
eczema, dog eczema.
They're there for the benefit of that business. So they're not required to capture the street that goes by. They're not required by any law to maintain those videos for any longer than they feel is necessary. They're there to make sure that if someone's coming through and burglarizing their business, they capture that information. The fact that they also happen to catch the cars going by is dumb luck. But this is not just dumb luck, because this is one of the parts of the investigation that Detective Moretti talked to you about. That they went out and went to multiple businesses. And look, these aren't officers that have been there 2 weeks on the job. Detective Moretti talked about, yeah, I've done tons of investigations at Walmart. I know their video retention policies. This is their jurisdiction that they are intimately familiar with as to where these cameras are and what they show. If you have a camera that's pointing in the completely wrong direction, you don't need to waste time to go in and look at something that's not going to show you anything. Or if you know the data retention period has already passed, because most are 7 days or less.
That's true.
You
Don't
need to
fucking
go
do
back
that.
and do that again. So if you look at, again, we have the McDonald's. This is where the network thinks the phone is at 347. Meters, not miles. But this is showing you that those records are accurate. They're not explicitly precise, but they are accurate.
Basically, yes, is the answer to your question, atheist damned.
This is the Montessori Academy. So ladies and gentlemen, you can see there's the Montessori Academy. And there is traffic. There is a car that is consistent with that gray Jeep going by at 353, at 406, and again before 420. You can watch that and look at that. It's not like there's no cars, there's nothing out there.
Is there anybody
There is
out
things
there?
that corroborate that cell phone evidence. We have Sunset Lakes. That shows, and again, 3:50 a.m. So ladies and gentlemen, you learned a lot about the geography of Miramar and Fort Lauderdale, the distances between. You learned from 805 Northeast 4th Avenue in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to Sunset Lakes, the 40th Street Visitors Entrance. You're looking about 31 miles. Detective Moretti talked to you about driving that route, and rather than spend 45 minutes doing that drive, he instead did the 16-minute version flying over to be able to show you all of these locations in a much quicker, expedient process. So you know that the red Mitsubishi goes 30 miles in 30 minutes. That's an average speed of 60 miles an hour. And so you have in that the phone of Dontavius Withers. Mr. Withers has been identified as the person who was driving. And you have Travion Glass in that front passenger seat. Ladies and gentlemen, watch that video, please. You can see Mr. Glass moving his hands. You can see that he's awake at the time at this guard game. Watch it. If you need help, again, we're happy to assist. So then we have 4:03 a.m. So at 4:03 a.m., ladies and gentlemen, we have a very specific location the network thinks the phone is. And this goes back to being in the big city, right? We're here in this courtroom. Right there, we can see 3rd Avenue out the window. We can see the New River. Phone doesn't know if we're on the 4th floor, 5th floor, 6th floor. But we could be anywhere in this building, right? That's the beauty of Pembroke Road and US 27. Because what you've learned, ladies and gentlemen, is that on the west side of Highway US 27, there is a canal. You've learned that 208 Avenue is gated on the north and the south ends. That there is a Pembroke Pines fire training facility out there, so it's locked. You've learned that at the end of Pembroke Road, out here to the east on this map, there's another set of closed gates that prevents any further eastern traffic. You've learned that there's a waste management recycling facility out there. Again, another gate, an area you can't get into easily. So because of that, that limits the places the phone can be. It's not in a helicopter, it's in a car. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. So let's talk about the timing advance. For Mr. Dennett's phone, I want to make sure it's clear when we're going through outdoor stationary I've highlighted in green. So from 319 outdoor stationary, mobile, 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 mobile,
Mobile, mobile, mobile, mobile,
So
mobile.
403, outdoor stationary,
What the hell was that?
and mobile again, all the way
Mobile
until
again.
440. Why is that important? Well, let's look at the pattern of travel. Let's look at what the phone is showing where it thinks it is. Ladies and gentlemen, just think about cellular telephones. Think about how they can tell you're mobile. Most human beings can't run 60 miles per hour on their feet. So if you think about the speed at which a phone is traveling, that's going to tell the cell phone company whether it's mobile, inside a building, or outside. If someone is outside, not moving, nothing's obstructing, there's no concrete, there's no rebar, there's no electrical wiring interfering with their phone getting a clear signal to a tower, to the satellite for GPS, that's going to tell them outdoor stationary. And ladies and gentlemen, this is common sense. These are things that you know on a daily basis that you have to deal with your own cell phones. You go into a really tall building, hard to get a signal. You have to go out to a window. And just because that is out there, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't mean that we're saying it's 100% accurate. We're saying that it is reliable on that it is also able to be corroborated by other evidence. What do I mean? 3:18 a.m., where it says the defendant is outdoor stationary, guess what the video at the studio shows? The defendant outside.
What?
When it says out here at 4:40 and 4:42, outdoor stationary, guess what the other evidence shows? The defendant outside sending a drop pin to his buddy.
Oh, he wasn't there.
From that phone. So let's talk about the pawn slip. Again, this goes to showing when you're not.
I'm sorry. It's a good time to do it. I don't know what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
I'm told someone needs a restroom break. We'll take a short
All right, so
recess.
you're gonna take a piss break. Get rid of the cut cage.
Specification, present, search, no research. Thank you. Just need no space on your chair. It's very important.
Familiar with.
Oh shit! What did
Just need
that?
no space on your chair. It's very important.
Huh. Melly's looking a little extra Gary Oldman Dracula today. All right, while they take their morning piss break, we'll mute the audio here and let them go about their business, their business, if you will. All right, we do have one super chat and a couple of other highlighted chats I mentioned to get through here while they're taking their. Oh, hang on, Judge is talking. Shut up, Jeff. All right, apparently it meant nothing. Unhung Hero says the prosecution is not very good at closing arguments, but she looks good doing it. Now, I said I would agree. Let me highlight this here. Yeah, I agree with the last part. She looks good doing it. And let's see. Let me get rid of it. We don't need lawn cuck. So yeah, sleeping Yoda cam. There we go. Yeah, you're right. She does look good doing it. But I disagree with your statement that she's not very good at closing arguments. They're not dynamic closing arguments. They're somewhat dry, but they're very, very specific. They're what I'm saying she should have done at the beginning. She should have connected the dots as you went along, rather than just present this sort of blunderbuss approach where you just shotgun everything and hope people can connect the dots. Now she's connecting the dots. It would have been better if she would have connected the dots as we went along, maybe presented witnesses in a little more logical order. But now she's going through and she's saying, okay, this is where he was. He wasn't, he was doing this. This is what the video shows. They show him getting in the van. They show him going here. All the video along the way shows that the van, the Jeep never stopped. He didn't get out anywhere. It shows his cell phone is right there with everybody else's. Okay, now they're showing this is stationary, but he's moving. They're presenting it very, very neutrally. If that makes any sense. They're not presenting it dynamically. It's sort of just, oh my God, Yoda, just bare bones facts. Very dry, but very effective, I think. They're just walking you down the path to a guilty verdict, which is what they should be doing. Outside of a martini, when is dry ever complimentary? Humor, yeah, here you're right with humor. Martini, obviously, dry. You got me there. So anyway, I do believe that the prosecution is doing a very, very effective closing argument by just presenting the facts, not getting hysterical like the defense lawyer is prone to do. Just saying, here it is. This is it. This is what we've got. These are the facts. And walking you down to saying, okay, he was the guy in the seat. He never got out of that seat. The bullets were fired. He got out of the seat. The van went to the hospital. He fucked off somewhere else. Yes, your boat is very dry. That might be a good one. One of the helpers for Jabba the Hutt. Yes, I mean, I'm just saying. I think she's doing a fairly good job. Her facts are great. Her delivery, I'll give her facts a 5 out of 5. I'll give her delivery about a 3 out of 5. So that averages out to 4 out of 5. I think. I can't do math. Dry armpits. Yes. Okay, fine. You got me there. And Ian is a hypocrite. Says, Jeff, are you mad that Nick is going to kill you next week on the child watch? I don't know what that means. If you're saying, am I mad that Nick is going to kill me on the trial watch? If you meant trial, are you mad that Nick is going to kill me next week on the Taylor Business trial watch? No, because I don't give a fuck what Nick does. Fuck you, Nick. Fuck you. Nick Rekieta, fuck you. I own you. I own you. Business is mine. But as I've been saying, Nick can tie his shoes and crush me by about 8 times the numbers. That's just to be expected. I rely on you, the humble viewer. I rely on you to realize that what I offer for the Taylor Business trial is light years beyond what Johnny come lately Nick Rekieta could offer you in relation to the Taylor Business trial. He's an upstart. He's a hanger on. You know where he got his copy of the criminal complaint? From me. He got it from me. I gave it to him. So he would have had all the juicy details if I hadn't have brought it to his attention. So, he's riding my coattails. Granted, he's got about a bajillion fucking more people than me riding with him. But, you do what you got to do. Viewers, you know where you want to be. You know where you should be. You know the right place to be. Right here, Legal Vices, gavel to gavel, Taylor Business trial coverage. You're going to get way more insight and background than Rekieta could give you because he doesn't give a shit about this. He's Johnny come lately. He doesn't know the details. I got them all. Anyway, no, just kidding. It's healthy competition, and Nick's not the only one that's going to be covering this. There's going to be other people covering it too. But I'm trusting all of you to be here and to bring all of your friends and to convince everybody to leave all of the other streams and to come here and watch me. Yeah, Nick's channel. Yeah, Rekieta's going to cover this as far as I know. Anyway, that's what I'd rather listen to that Utah accent. My Utah accent. I can put on my Utah accent and do this. Y'all ignorant bastards. In Utah, ignorant has only one vowel, the I at the beginning. In Utah, ignorant is spelled IGNRNT. Ignorant. You're ignorant. Yeah, all you ignorant bastards come here to listen to my Utah pronunciation. We got you covered. That one chick bringing the $5 heat. I found you because of Nick. We're all fans of the courtroom. Yes, and I owe a lot of what I am to Nick Rekieta. But should business trials mine? I'm coming for you, Nicholas. And that one chick, I expect you to be here. All right, we are back in court. I can stop that stupid ass to read, and let's get back to the judge. All right. What have I done? There we go. And let me... Nick is going to crush Jeff. Me, I doubt it. Well, I appreciate your optimism, John Gordon, but if he covers it, he will crush me. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm having fun, and I'm waiting for you. Who is it?
Jury entering.
Jury entering who? One of these days, they'll make a funny comment. I doubt it. Yeah. Nick's going to crush me if he does it, but hey, you know what? Fuck it. We're all in this together. I'll do my best. Those that want to ride with the cool people will be here. Those that want to go with second best will go hang out with Nick.
Thank you. Please
that one chick says, we already just read that. Thank you very much, that one chick. And Chairforce Gaming, does Strawberry know that sleeping on her stomach will ruin her spinal alignment? Bulldogs are fucked up anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The spinal alignment is the least of their genetic problems.
Right?
All right, here we go.
Seems kind of silly. But again, this goes back showing that you're not planning a murder.
That's funny, Swan Lake.
Just keep moving, podium. Oh, this one here. Thank you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When you are not planning a murder, you use your real phone number. And this isn't, this was where I could be reached. He was pawning jewelry.
What?
You have this in evidence.
He was pawning jewelry?
Allen, who testified that that is the defendant's thumbprint. You have his signature, where he is stating that everything on that document, that the facts stated in it are true. There's a fact. His cell phone number is 772-713-9807.
And this is the very first time in the entire trial they have shown anyone in the gallery.
Go to the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles records. You have his name, his driver's license number, his signature. The same driver's license number, signature, and name that you have on the consulate. Then you have the booking prints, where you heard from Deputy Maycock that yes, he took the prints of the defendant on February of 2019. And that is the same thumbprint that's on that booking print that's on that consulate. So let's talk a little bit about the cast analysis. That was the FBI, Special Agent Brendan Collins. He looked at not just one phone, but compared and contrasted two phones in each of these particular analysis slides that he compiled. And those
Error
are
messages for what,
and
Lisa?
Feel free to look at those and refer to those. So we have here between 3:20 a.m. and 3:57 a.m. 772-713-9807, Mr. Demon's phone.
Hey, whoever timed that amount, don't do
Mr.
that.
Williams' phone are all tracking together. If you recall, when there's circles, Special Agent Collins is indicating they are using the same cell tower. He's not plotting in terms of the distance on those. That's all he's indicating with that. So this is showing the pattern of travel, that at each of these points, they're using the same cell towers. So ladies and gentlemen, you've learned that the phones of Mr. Demons and Mr. Williams travel in from 3:20 a.m. in 40 minutes all the way out to US 27 in Pembroke Road. And so why is that important? You've learned from watching the videos of the geography how long it takes to get from the studio out to 184th and Miramar Parkway. That's about a couple blocks north of the Sunset Lakes 40th Street entrance. You've learned that. So now you know that how long it takes to go all the way up to Pines Boulevard, because as you've learned, Pembroke Road doesn't go through. You have to go all the way to Pines to get across. So then on the other side,
and always send
Mr.
super chats
Thomas
just to make sure
and me,
everything's okay.
Rachie,
Just
the
say it.
deceased in the rear passenger seat, and Mr. Withers, the driver of the red Mitsubishi. And they're both on Sprint. If you recall, Mr. Demmons and Mr. Williams, same phones.
Phoebe,
same
I promise I
phone
will address that later. Stay tuned.
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Withers, both on Sprint. Because at this point, T-Mobile and Sprint were two different companies. They have since merged. Again, you're showing the same pattern of travel. From the studio, going north up to Sunrise, Sunrise down I-95, 595 across to I-75 south to Miramar Parkway. And they are showing consistently traveling together. Then we have Francois, track, his phone. Here's his alibi. He's home. This is the Margate, Toscana apartments that you heard about and learned about. He is nowhere near US 27. He's nowhere near the recording studio. He's at his home in Margate, his apartment, until noon the next day. Then for some reason, at noon, on October 26th of 2018, Jameson Francois' phone is out there in that same US 27 and Pembroke Road location. And so is that of Mr. Demmons. Very odd location to go to. Nothing out there, except evidence of a murder. And you know the number of shell casings that were found at that scene. And you know that there's at least A through Q fired into the outside of that vehicle. Not including the ones inside the vehicle, in terms of the number of shots that are fired.
Wow, I'll have to sit on this one for a bit, but we can do this.
So going back to Mr. Demmons' phone at 4:40 a.m. Remember the timing advance bands. So at this point, at 4:40 a.m., you also have seen the Memorial Miramar
We can do that
video,
later.
where at 4:35, the Memorial Hospital is right here.
It's the nipple diagram.
At 4:35, 5 minutes earlier, Portland Henry drives the gray Jeep into the hospital with the two deceased victims. So you know where Anthony Williams is, you know where Christopher Thomas is, and you know where Portland Henry is, because it's on video. So then you have the timing advance band. And again, this goes to, where is the phone? Because the phone, you've learned, connects and talks to the tower no matter what. But the phone doesn't make outgoing phone calls on its own. The phone doesn't send text messages on its own. That takes user input. So here's an example of the drop pin at 4:42 a.m. to Frederick Gibbons. This is from Special Agent Collins, showing where on this red band the phone would be based on the phone network records. Then we have the phone itself saying where it is. Pretty consistent.
Uche,
So
fan?
let's talk about whose phone it is. And
Well,
I know
who is this?
it was a
What is
lot
her
of video
number?
of pictures to watch. I know. I'm not going, and we all know that I can quantify countries.
Finish the titty.
So I want to make
Titty's
sure
back.
that everyone understands why it's important as to who the phone shows.
Her number is 10. 1-800-SKANK for hire. That's too many letters.
All of these photos, all of these FaceTimes show the defendant. There's not a single instance that's been put before you.
That's been put
That phone
before
is
you.
in evidence. It states
That's
64 of the
before
extractions,
you.
and then the phone itself
There
as well.
could be a billion pictures on there, and they may
It
want to
says,
put
hey,
the ones that have him
This
on
is
there.
so-and-so, I'm using
That
Melly's phone.
That was a trick. That was a prosecutor trick. There's been
You
no
don't have
pictures put
because it doesn't
before
exist.
you that doesn't have him in it. What
Instead,
about all the pictures
you
that
have
were put
this
before,
defendant
that were not put before them, that didn't have him in it?
Using his phone. And he's the only person.
Little prosecution trick there.
And so, ladies and
Words
gentlemen, it's
mean
important
things.
to note
Exactly.
that this isn't the polished, perfect shot.
Seizure warning.
These are the outtakes. These are the ones that aren't suitable for public consumption, that aren't put out on Instagram,
Aren't suitable
that
for
aren't
public consumption.
put out
Dick
there
pics.
to promote an album
The
or
Melly
anything
dick
like
pics.
that.
Show the dick
These are
pics.
the raw images.
Pretend you're in Congress.
That's why it's important to look at those. And ladies and gentlemen, just because there's a photo on this
Yes,
phone
Phoebe Purvis. This is closing arguments by the
of something
prosecution.
else. If you take a photo of your dog with your phone, it doesn't mean it's your dog's phone.
This is my dog's camera.
You're taking
so fuck
pictures
you,
of
woman.
what's important to you. I submit to you, you can tell based on these photos and these videos what's important to this defendant. The videos. Just gonna play one, but this
Yeah.
is, like I said, a sample of the
They were,
1,000.
they were very specific. There are thousands of pictures. This is a sample, and all of the ones put
the phone
before
in
you
the
have
glasses.
him on there. Huh?
The videos also show, if you recall, the video of the Western Union transaction. 772-713-9807, October 2nd of 2018. This is the only individual that is using this phone. Talking about the jail call. You heard about 6 minutes of this call, and of which part there's 2 minutes where it's silent. What is that? We learned during the course of that call that the phone, 772-713-9807, didn't have money to pay for the minutes for the jail call.
Bitch, charge your fucking
ladies and
phone.
gentlemen,
Come
remind you
on.
what
Put
that
some
jail
money
call
on that
said.
phone, you poor.
Hello. This is a collect call from an inmate at Broward County Main Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To continue, press 1. To disconnect, press 2. Thank you for using Securus. You may start the conversation now. Hello?
Hey, Mom.
Why didn't you just call my phone where I got my credit card? You should have called my phone, baby, because I put money on my phone. It's money on my phone. No, you out of money. It says that this is not what this is. I just put my credit card on your phone now.
Yeah, yeah, you could. Oh, yeah, my credit card is clipped.
Yeah, I don't know your credit card number because it asks for like your expiration date and your zip code. I don't know what your stuff is that's linked to that card. What is 7-Eleven? That's 7-Eleven in July. What you doing, baby?
Yeah, I'm driving. My credit card. I'm keep my credit card.
This is Charlie Brown's shit here.
That's your phone, because he said I'll be answering the phone when I'm supposed to.
You gonna be working already.
Yeah, oh, he just said he love you, keep your head up,
Keep
and
your
everything.
head up.
And then,
Keep your head up.
Yeah.
Moving on. Keep your head up. Moving
When you've been
on.
checking your phone, I ain't been reading your stuff, but he got like text messages from him. I didn't know if you want me to call him or
I'm the
three-way or.
original.
Call Justin home.
Who is that? Hold on. You got your number?
Yeah, it's my home. Justin home.
Oh, he did his son. Okay.
No, Eric. Go to the penalty box, Eric. Go to the penalty box.
Okay. Yeah. So I go under contact and go under justice.
Yeah.
What's the number? Is there? I need facial recognition.
762-556.
7. Oh my God, I'm trying to drive. I'm trying to do this. Hold on. 7, 6, 2, 5, 5, 6. Yeah, right here, real quick. I just like, hold on, I'm about to have a wire drive so I can do this for you. But I'm trying to do too many things at once.
So what did we learn in that phone call? We fast forwarded through the part where they're putting a credit card phone number in. They use GPS. They find it reliable to find a 7-Eleven. That's the defendant's phone. Why are you calling my phone? That Mariah is there with Jamie King. That is the phone number that's being called. That's being identified as my phone by the defendant. So let's talk about some of the text messages. Ladies and gentlemen, you will have those to go through.
Oh, God damn it. Back to the text messages again.
You'll have
Don't do it, prosecution. It's a mistake.
Crazy or crazy lady is Jamie King.
It's a
Go through and
mistake.
read those messages. You can see it's a mother-son relationship. I love you, kid. Son. All of those types of endearments showing you who's using the 9807 phone. We also have with Anthony Williams. He's listed as the contract as twin. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gone over the messages where you can see the animosity, that there is some tension between Mr. Williams and Mr. Demmons, where Mr. Williams is making it clear that, and I will fully agree, Mr. Demmons was a talented musical artist.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Anthony Williams had not had that level of success. Christopher Thomas
Williams was a
didn't
hanger.
have that level of success. They don't
Jimmy
have that
was a
opportunity because the defendant killed him.
Oh,
But the defendant was making money. He was the one that was the revenue source, the meal ticket in that house. Look at the messages. Look at the tone of them. Look who's asking for money. Look at the way they communicate about things for the house, about food. And look at where Anthony Williams is saying, look, I'm the CEO. The others are artists. Anthony is saying, myself, Mr. Demmons, Mr. Thomas, we're the CEOs. But at that time, Mr. Demmons is the only one who's actually putting in the work, who's doing anything, who's making the money, who's recording the songs. You have the chat with Frederick Gibbons. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the one in which the defendant asked to be picked up from the side of Pembroke Road. That's that drop pin that we talked about in relation to the cast records. That phone is being used by the person who committed the murder. And ladies and gentlemen, the only evidence before you, the only evidence is that the only person that used that phone was the defendant, Jamel Demmons.
okay, fair enough. I
So
think
go
she's
through
proved
and
that.
look at some of the videos. You have the studio video. You have the brief clip of the documentary. Watch what the defendant's doing with his phone during that. Glued to that phone. Glued to it. So let's talk about the activity and the location data. What does this show? We have on October 25th of 2018, 8:14 p.m., a scent of a CL, or a current location, a drop pin. That one is sent to Anthony Williams. You can look at the messages and look at all of this and verify all of these things. Then the next one going from the bottom up, we have 4:42:49 a.m. That's the first one on the side of 178, just south of Pembroke Road, mere blocks from the hospital. Then we go to the second one, 4:53:30. You can look and you can see, based on the numbers, how close those two drop pins are from one another. Negative 80.38, negative 80.38, 25.98, 25.98. And you can see the time difference between the two of those. And then, this part is key. The next Wi-Fi the defendant connects to is not at his house, not at the YNW Castle, but at Frito Bang's. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant committed the murder,
Allegedly.
dropped off on the side of the road, and then needs to find a way to get home.
Sounds
Can't go
reasonable
home
to me.
Because the other people in the Red Mitsubishi, they didn't know what happened. And they need time to get their story straight. And police don't know about Frito Bang's involvement. In fact, police don't find out about Frito Bang and the picking up of this until February and March of 2019, after the defendant's in custody. So what we had to look at now, Frito's house Wi-Fi, 8:47. And then look, it connects back again automatically at 12:27. That further verifies and corroborates the trip back to US 27 Pembroke Road at noon that I submit to you was to pick up shell casings. Then we go back and we have the one that we did in open court. The one at 6:41 p.m. It is at that location at the video shoot. 10:27 at 3:02 a.m. That is the next time the defendant returns to that house. The YNW Castle, the 18521 Southwest 44th. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes common sense is not so common. And these details are things that are not being contemplated after the murder. Because if the version that was brought in by Mr. Davis, the defense witness, is to be believed, that phone should have gone to the house. That phone should have connected to the YNW Castle Wi-Fi, not be sending drop pins all over the county and connecting to somebody else's Wi-Fi before finally going back to that house. So remember, that phone showed mobile all the way till 4:03 a.m. That's when it went outdoor stationary. So ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you, that's when that drive-by was staged and the victims were killed sometime between the highway at Miramar Parkway and I-75 and getting out to US 27. Because you learned they were dead for some time. And look, there's no way to put an exact amount on there, but hearts were not beating when that drive-by was staged. So then if we go into the steps. If you recall, the drop pins, 442, 1,397 steps, 945 meters. And ladies and gentlemen, you can go back, and this is in evidence, you can look through and see when the defendant's at the studio, in the recording studio, you don't see this type of movement. If the defendant was home in bed, you wouldn't have any activity. As to if it's 70 steps, 80 steps, 50 steps, you would have 0 if the defendant was home in bed with his phone. As you recall, 4:03 a.m. is when the phone is saying outdoor stationary inside of Pembroke Road 27. So let's go to Felicia Holmes. Felicia Holmes, I think it is safe to say, hates me. And I'm okay with that. Because my job is to prosecute a crime and prove that it happened. Ms. Holmes didn't show up for a summons. There are consequences if you do not comply with court orders.
You have to go to the bad girl room.
You were served a jury summons to show up, just as she was served a subpoena to show up. I'm not going to apologize for doing my job. But what I am
Never
going to
apologize.
say is remember her testimony. And I have to say, the photos are courtesy of Law and Crime, so I appreciate their allowing me to use those. Ms. Holmes did everything she could to not perjure herself. Because she didn't want to say she lied to law enforcement. Because that would get her in trouble. So it shows this whole I don't remember. But even with all of that, she did remember one very important detail. Mr. Demmons on a FaceTime call with her daughter. So you know at that point, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Demmons...
Objection. There's no such testimony. Objected.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are to rely on your own recollection of the evidence. This is counsel's summation of what she believes.
Basically, ignore what the lawyers
You
say.
heard
Listen to them, but
from
ignore
her
it.
mouth that she heard her daughter scream, and that then she spoke with the defendant on FaceTime.
Objection.
Thank you. Same ruling, ladies and gentlemen. You are to rely on your own recollection of the evidence.
Prosecution's doing it again, getting a little sneaky.
Vasquez knew about a drive-by shooting because the cover-up has already started. And remember, Cortland Henry is at the hospital. 4:35. Mr. Demmons is not. But they've already worked out this story to try and get away with murder. Whatever was said on that phone call was so troubling and so disturbing to Ms. Holmes that she and her daughter then drove immediately to Broward County. She remembers Frito Bang's house. She remembers lunch. But doesn't remember the contents of the call, doesn't now remember the phone number that was used or anything like that. Doesn't know her 17-year-old daughter's phone number at the time.
Look, I don't have
common sense.
I don't know what
A
my
mother
son's
is
phone
going
number
to
is.
know her child's
I
phone
just
number.
I enter my son's name and it dials in.
And
if my
don't
phone went
forget,
away,
ladies
I
and
would have
gentlemen,
zero idea how to
that
connect to
little
my
detail
son.
about the $5,000
Our
that she
phones
got,
have made us stupid. We don't
That
have to
wasn't her mistake.
remember information anymore. If you put a fucking gun
She
to
says,
my
"Oh,
head
no, that
right
was
now
for
and
a
ask me what is
vacation."
my son's telephone number, I couldn't
Can
tell
you
you.
remember? That was hush money. That's what that $5,000 was.
Objection. There's no evidence of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are to
Assumes
rely on
facts,
your own
not an
recollection
evidence.
of the evidence. This is argument. Proceed.
So if you recall, Ms. Holmes identified that driver's license in the Snapchat video. That's her daughter, Mariah Hamilton. You can see, again, one of the photos that was previously shown. Ms. Hamilton and Mr. Demmons spoke on FaceTime all the time. And Mr. Demmons took screenshots all the time. Always making contact,
Exactly.
whether on purpose or not.
I remember my grandmother's number,
Every
my
single
first
time
telephone number, my
that
best
you can
friend's
see this
number.
is an example of
Numbers of
showing
people that have been
this
dead
was
for
his
30
pattern.
years, but I can't tell you numbers.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember Ms. Johnson from T-Mobile. The call detail records are just that, calls, not data. A FaceTime, a video communication, is a data usage on a phone, not a cellular telephone call.
Oh, bye, Felicia.
So you're not going to see a cellular telephone call on the CDR showing Ms. Holmes and Ms. Hamilton's phone call from the side of the road. Travion Glass, the red Mitsubishi. What did we learn from Mr. Glass? We learned that the red Mitsubishi did not stop at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's consistent with the physical evidence, with all of the cell phones, with everything else that cannot be changed by a person's failure to recall, that is in the records, that is on video. That's what you can show to corroborate, show that he is being honest. Mr. Glass said, Mr. Demons was not in the car, that red Mitsubishi, at any point on October 26th of 2018. Same 4 people got in, same 4 people got out. He recalled the different clothing the defendant was wearing at Frito Bank's
Aren't you
house.
special, Valhalla? Ew. So much
And he
better than us.
authenticated those photos that Danny Polo first introduced, that those were from that evening. Where you see Anthony Williams sitting on a couch smiling, where you see Christopher Thomas animated standing up, where you see Jamel Demons doing a handshake with the engineer. And look at those photos, ladies and gentlemen, because if you zoom in and you look up at that top of the one photo where the engineer is sitting down at the computer, and Mr. Demons is standing up, you can see the exact same screen grabs of the studio surveillance footage that you watched. You can see the red Mitsubishi and the gray Jeep parked just as they were. So Mr. Glass said that the red Mitsubishi did not stop. Just because you're in a courtroom doesn't mean common sense doesn't apply. If you fall asleep in a car and the lulling motion of the car driving puts you to sleep. That first red light, when you get off that interstate, wakes you up. These are things that you can rely on in your own personal experience to say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That the red Mitsubishi didn't stop. That the 30 minutes,
Kira, I love you to death, but
miles are consistent with one another.
Are you out of your goddamn mind?
That there was no
I love you,
stopping
Kira,
on the
but
side of the
no.
road.
My doggy is all
And
mine.
also, there's
Both
no
of
reason.
them. Both of them.
There is
are mine.
no reason put before this jury whatsoever. Not in the phone records,
But you can come and look at it, man.
not in the Snapchat, nothing that explains why 8 people that are going to the exact same location would stop on the side of the road. Just one person would switch a car. No reason whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, you can look at those videos and see the cars are tracking together.
True.
The phones are tracking together.
You're not wrong, John.
All
You're not
the way
wrong.
through until they get to 184th. So we have the memorial mirror mark that gives us that timestamp on Mr. Henry.
Just wanted to look at that profile picture again.
And we also know that here Mr. Henry changed clothes.
All right.
So we have in short sleeves.
Damn, all these
studio,
guys skipped leg
and
day
now
at
we're
the
in
gym.
long
What's
sleeves
this?
as he
Literally
runs
everybody
into
skipped leg day.
Talk to Officer Amangor, who was the detail officer working at the hospital. So what you have learned from this, and you can watch it again. They first.
What I've learned from this is he runs like a bitch. Look at those arms. I'm running into the hospital. He runs like a bitch. That's what I learned.
Picture so you can see from the Jeep at the hospital. They then recline that seat all the way forward to take out Mr. Thomas.
Everybody stop simping for Kira. Come on.
I'm not going to play the video now. But so you know at this point that Cortland Henry has changed clothes.
No, you may not.
And that'll become important again in a moment. So George Bello.
Yeah.
I don't think he was dropped off for certificates and firearms.
You fucking minion. Hello.
You learned that he is part of the Broward Sheriff's Office Crime Lab, Firearms and Tool Marks unit. That he is the manager of that unit. That he has worked in that particular area for a number of years, both here and in Dade County. And you learned more about firearms and how a casing is marked by a firearm, how a projectile is marked. And this is just some of the things that you learned. Shapes of firing pins, breech face marks, extractor marks, ejector marks,
resting breech
lands,
face,
grooves, rifling, the class characteristics, which means every
what is nobody can talk about ejector marks? I've got your extractor marks
19
and your ejector marks right here.
Of these same class characteristics. The rifling, the lands and grooves, right? Those are going to be the same for each Glock 19.
No, really,
the individual characteristics are the things that make each firearm unique.
No.
So what did you learn specifically on this casings and
Lucy Capri 23, welcome to the channel.
So starting
Stick
with
around,
projectile,
please. Make sure you
this was
subscribe.
recovered
We love to
from
have
Anthony
you.
Williams. This was from his shoulder. We have the ones from Christopher Thomas, and this is just a sample of the 7 that were recovered. So what do you learn about all of these projectiles?
8 to 10 years
You learn
later.
about
It's
the
pretty
projectiles
sad.
from the Jeep.
8 to 10
And
years.
again, this is just a sample, not all of them. So you learn that numbers 13, 14, and 15, right? So those are going to be the ones from the Jeep. And the easiest way to reference all of these, ladies and gentlemen, is the G number. The group number, which is the one that's assigned by Miramar, and that's on the
Anonymous
packaging for each of
Apostate, the
those
newest
particular items and
member.
evidence.
Anonymous
So you
Apostate
learn
has
that
joined
13,
us
14,
here
and 15, which came
as
out of
our
that Jeep,
newest member. Everybody
were
wants to be my
all
member.
fired.
My member. You are
13,
my
15
member.
are definitely
I
the
worship
same
my
weapon.
member. I love my member.
And
You are
14
my member.
is very
Anonymous
likely to be the
Apostate.
same, but it has too much damage to make a full conclusion on that. So then on the ones from Mr. Thomas and Mr. Williams. That's the G44, 57 through 63. Again, some of them have both class and individual characteristics, which they could have been fired from the same weapon. And the rest have just class characteristics. And so then we have the cartridge casing. So this casing is at the passenger, rear, driver's side, floorboard. The exact seat Mr. Jennings was sitting in a plastic bag. This
look at Kira, not chatting
October
anymore, so we
26,
can't throw up her
2018.
chats here on screen. Sorry, all you simps.
Then we
Kira
go
does not
to
want to
November
be seen anymore.
21st
It's all your fault.
of
You ran her
2018.
off with your weird simpery.
Where you heard about the testimony, they had to use the canine to find these particular artifacts.
She's very
All these
methodical. This is very, very
casings
persuasive.
are consistent and fired from the same weapon as the one inside the car. From this, ladies and gentlemen, we went through the cantilevers, the lands, the grooves, the rifling on all of those. So we go through every single one. And that's G196 through 203.
Wait, this whole time I thought they'd been talking
Right.
about the Glock 40.
They all
Now they've been mentioning a Glock 19.
And so you learn from George Bello that he doesn't have a weapon for comparison. And he gives a list, 30 or so weapons that could have caused this particular casing and projectile. Right? So you learned that without the actual firearm and the exact same ammunition, you can't do a range of fire or distance determination because there are things in each firearm that would affect that. You want to, in any scientific experiment, make as few variables as possible. If you don't have the gun, you can't do it. So then you also learned that if you don't have the gun, you cannot match the casings to the projectiles. You can match projectile to projectile and casing to casing, but you can't match one to the other because there's different marks from different parts of the gun. Other important thing, George Bello specifically excluded Glock firearms because they have a different, very distinct type of rifle. So all those Glock-related firearm things at Jameson Francois, no relation whatsoever to this case. That's how you got was not the murder weapon.
Hey, Amanda,
Can't
you're
tell
going to
you
be up in
that
January. Hit me up
what
when you're
specific
here.
gun was
We'll
the
do
murder.
drinks. We'll
Because
show
it's
you
never
around.
been
We'll
found,
answer
there's
your
never been
questions.
another match.
Anybody that
to
comes
that.
to Korea, free
To
drinks
this.
on me.
So let's go to GSR. Tara Helsell came in and testified from RJ Lee. You learned GSR, primer, that's what she's testing for and looking at under the scanning electron microscope. Antimony, barium, and lead. That those three, when all three are together, are considered GSR. That is a gunshot residue particle, all three of them. You learned that Mr. Henry has one. One 3-component GSR particle on his left hand.
What?
And then
So he
there are
has
two
two
component
particles on his
particles.
left hand,
So
one
either
particle on his
lead
right
and
hand.
antimony, lead and
I think it
barium,
would be it seems
or
like it would be
barium
the
and
opposite.
antimony, right?
His right hand
One
would be
on
closer
his
to the gunshot
left
and the
hand,
murder.
And
Whatever.
one on his right hand. So you've learned that some of those maybe
What?
show up.
You're coming to Korea in August,
other
Shauna?
circumstances.
Seriously, hit me up. Send me a tweet.
But generally you see a third element.
Seriously?
I believe she referenced brake pads, and you could also see steel. You don't have that here, right? So you have a 3-component GSR and a 2-component GSR, 2 of those. So the G in 2023, you then have more than 9 2-component GSR particles found 5 years later. They're still there. And that you heard from Chris Williams, who obtained those during his shooting reconstruction and sent them in for testing. So what does that tell you
Thank you.
about
Madison.
Portland Henry? Ms. Helsell was very clear. She goes, I cannot say that GSR being there or GSR not being there means that someone fired a gun. Because there's 3 options. 1, they fired a gun. 2, they were in close proximity to someone that fired a gun. Or 3, they touched a surface upon which
That's
GSR was
awesome.
and it transferred to their
Seriously,
skin.
send me a Twitter on. Send me a tweet.
So ladies and gentlemen,
The
with
legal
regards
vices
to
and
GSR,
let me
you
know
also
where you're going to be,
learned that it
what
falls
time
off
frame
very
you're
quickly.
looking at, and we'll work
So
on
you have
it.
a
We'll work
G
on it.
covered in 2-component particles. And you have Mr. Henry having 1 after changing clothes. What you don't have is an answer as to Mr. Dennis.
So they never
Because he's
tested
never
the
tested.
defendant.
Because
They
he didn't speak
tested
to
the
law
other
enforcement
guy,
that
they
day.
didn't
He
test
didn't
the
go to
defendant.
hospital. He was never tested for GSR.
All right.
He did nothing on that. So you can't draw a conclusion one way or the other as to GSR because there is no answer to that. So again, George Bello says all 8 casings are all from the same firearm. You can't have a drive-by and have a casing wind up inside the car. Doesn't work that way. So then we get to Mr. Henry's statement. Part of the cover-up. So you hear, I was getting sleepy, I was almost home. Out of nowhere, I heard gunshots. I ducked down, almost crashed the car. And these are from that sheet that you had. And if you want to listen to that statement again, Those will be made available to you as well as the disc, but you would have to come out into the courtroom to look at those. So he's talking about ducking, hitting the median. He's embellishing, trying to sell this story. Because there's no evidence that shows any sort of tire damage, any sort of rim damage whatsoever. But no description. No idea what type of car. Nothing on that. Because there wasn't one. But he is trying to build a cover story.
Monsoon season is ended like yesterday.
And separate him from the shooting. So as you learned, how Miramar Parkway is laid out. And you learned that the Miramar Police Department shut down Miramar Parkway and walked more than 2 miles.
Yes, jury selection Friday for your business.
They walked from I-75
by Phoebes
all the way to 184. And so when you look at Miramar Parkway and the geography of it compared to Mr. Henry's statement, it's interesting to note that the hospital is right there. If it had happened as he stated, we wouldn't have differing timeframes on the postmortem wounds and the fatal wounds. That's a mile. From I-75 to 172nd, 1 mile. From 172nd to Pembroke Road, 1 mile. If that's where this happened, you would have evidence of it. And there is none. There's no casings, there's no glass, there's no projectiles. So from this, and all the cell phone records show consistent path of travel all the way across Miramar Parkway to 184th. That is when everything splits. If you recall, Detective Hector
This is the important part. They're together, but then when did it happen? When did they split?
So let's go to the DNA. On October 26th of 2018, Chris Carter swabbed the rear driver's side door handle interior. It wasn't tested until later because, ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, investigations are fluid.
Please don't get out of jury duty, Kira. Please go there and be a responsible, intelligent person.
Nobody came into this building.
Jurors need to be intelligent.
So this isn't tested until later.
Please don't try to get out. All the intelligent people always try to get out. That leaves retards on the jury.
Kurt Rhodes, the
we need intelligent, critical thinking people who can follow instructions and listen to the evidence. Please go there and be a shining example of what it means to be an American and to discharge your duty honorably as a juror. Please, please, please.
From this door handle with the blood on it, here's what you have. Very strong support for Christopher Thomas. Limited support that Anthony Williams is also included, and very strong support that Jamel Demons' DNA is on that door. So, ladies and gentlemen, when an item is tested, it doesn't change the results. There are many factors that go into when an item is tested. Witnesses aren't being cooperative. Have to come up with a different way to prove it.
Jurors need people like you. All jurors should be made up of people like you, Kira. People that watch these things, people that learn these things, people that watch and understand the duties and responsibilities and seriousness of what it means to be a juror. This is a very unique piece of evidence that you don't see very often in any case. And what does the glass on US 27 and Pembroke Road tell us? Let's think about this. The glass is on the north side of the road. Why is that important? So if you have Melly's murdermobile on the south side of the road, stage the drive-by, you now have a ton of shattered glass. Some in the vehicle, some hanging on. You have to leave that area. How do you go from facing
eastbound on the south part of the road to going back to US 27, because that's the only way out, as you've learned.
I don't remember that
Pop a
video.
U. What happens when you pop a U-turn?
Oh, on Instagram?
All of the glass
Okay, yeah.
that was in
If it's
that
Instagram, I
vehicle
remember.
is then thrown out to the north side of the road as they make that U-turn. So ladies and gentlemen, that's why this glass was collected, and that's what it shows. It shows the pattern of travel and the fact that this did happen in Miramar on the south side of Pembroke Road.
We have an uncivil law raid. Everybody
So
from
you have the
uncivil law
different
joining. Glad
populations
to
of
have you.
glass.
Please make sure you hit that
And you
like
heard
and
from
subscribe
James
button.
Morano
Subscribe to me because
that
I'm
the two
awesome.
different types that he went through and he compared them, and that they are consistent, both the standards as well as the ones on the side of the road. It's another thing and another level of showing you that this Jeep was out there, that this was the cover-up, that this was not a drive-by. So let's go to the gangs. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm limited on time in terms of what I can talk about. So in some areas, I'm going to be brief. This is one of those. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence clearly shows
Did I say
the
boobs?
defendant is a G-Shine blood gang member.
Blood. I thought
And
it said
so for the
boobs.
purposes of the jury instructions that is on
I
our
think
just read to
everything
you,
says boobs.
you have to determine if at the time of this offense,
I like
the
boobs.
murder of his two friends benefited the defendant. And in benefiting the defendant and promoting or benefiting his position in the gang, it then helped the gang itself.
Thanks,
You
waifu.
learned
Jess is the
many,
best.
many things about G-Shine, the organization. And I think the most important thing to look at is to compare and contrast the public-facing, the YouTube videos, the gang signs, the music videos.
Dad,
motto
I'm
for the
young.
album, right?
I'm just a young buck.
Those could
I'm
be,
virile, vigorous, and potent. I'm nobody's dad except for
that
my
could be a
son.
show put on for the public. But look at the private side, the not for public consumption. Look at those messages. And look at that, there is a benefit to both sides. The gang gets notoriety, gets money. The defendant, he gets access to different venues. As you heard. He gets protection.
Stop with that throat
He
clearing,
gets
whoever the
a
hell you
sense
are.
of
I get blamed for that shit.
whatever you want to call comes along with being a gang member. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard lots of testimony from Detective Danny Polo as to what the primary activities of G-Shine, of GKB, Gangster Killer Bloods are. You learned that they're the enforcers. You learned that they are violent. You have that information before you in those text messages. The nighttime drive. This shows the conditions under which this murder took place.
See, Lisa,
This is
you
not an
raised a good
area
point. She's boring,
by accident.
but what she's saying is
or
very
misfortune.
accurate, very fair,
This is
very
a
pointed,
planned
and
drive
very
out
important.
to
But
the
she's
Everglades
delivering it
where there's not any
poorly.
witnesses. This shows pre-planning and premeditation. This is a consistent, quick, no stops, no detours ride out here. And so some of the things that you can look for premeditation, the nature of the weapon used. So having the firearm already. And ladies and gentlemen, how do you know that they had the firearm already and the defendant had the firearm already? Because he asked for it the day before. Remember, on October 25th, Jamel Demons, 9807, sent a text message to Anthony Williams asking, where's the fire at? FYE. And Mr. Williams says, it's in here with us. And if you look at the context of the conversations, that shows they were driving down from a location in Stewart and they were driving to pick the defendant up at the airport. Mr. Williams brought his own murder weapon to the defendant. Look at the rest of the conversations. There's multiple discussions about this firearm. Where's the firearm? From Mr. Williams to Mr. Demons earlier on. It's in my closet, third shoebox. This is discussed. That is not a lighter. That is not a really great song. That's a firearm, ladies and gentlemen. There is discussion about firearms. The presence or absence of adequate provocation. When you look at that and you're looking at this case, they were friends, right? They were buddies since they grew up. But look at the stress being placed on this defendant as the only one bringing the money in, as the only person who's paying the bills. Look at the tension on there, right? Look at the issues and concerns with Mr. Williams, Anthony Williams, and the defendant's mother, that they're fighting an argument. The message is on there to that effect. So look at, for premeditation, you can also look at the manner in which the homicide was committed. Anthony Williams was shot in the back of the head.
From the
That was
rear
planned
driver's side seat.
for when he was sleeping,
Where Melly was.
so that he could not fight back. That was a premeditated, planned killing of Anthony Williams, where there would be an alibi already discussed. So then, Christopher Thomas. Premeditation, as the judge instructed you,
I'll be right back. Hang on.
does not require days, weeks, months of planning. Premeditation can be formed quickly. Example we use in jury selection. Going to your mom's house on Mother's Day. You forget to bring flowers. You reach down, pull some flowers out of her yard and give her to those. That is premeditation. That is thinking about something, then doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you the murder of Christopher Thomas was premeditated in that as well. Chris Thomas, as you saw with Sergeant Williams and Mr. Howard demonstrating, oh my goodness, what's going on? Mr. Demons then made the decision at that point, he couldn't have a witness. So look at that. Those are all things in which you can get premeditation, how it was committed, the wounds that were inflicted, the back of the head. Going to Facebook. Showing again that the different information that you have before you belongs to this defendant. 772-713-9807. And that Melly, Montana, at iCloud.com is the email. Remember the snapshot? Melly.Montana? These are names that the defendant uses over and over again to talk about and communicate and identify himself. And look, that phone says verified as belonging to Jamal Demons. Also remember Facebook. We have October 26th of 2018. Sun's going down. And the defendant's phone also shows him at this location in Courtroom.
No, this isn't speculation, it's argument.
Dancing and singing and performing.
You can believe it or
Wearing
not.
the same jacket, an identical jacket to what Chris Thomas was wearing the night before. And showing Mr. Henry wearing the denim jacket, like Mr. Williams was wearing the night before. And so the question was posed about a contractual agreement and losing money to be there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look at the text messages between Mr. Demons and his mother, because he wasn't worried a couple of months before about missing a show because he was getting his hair braided and losing $1,000. But then this night,
different area. Steve won't be involved in this. It's a different area.
he's dancing and partying around and is worried about a contractual agreement. Just look at those types of information and those types of behavior and how someone is acting. Snapchat. If you recall, this is the argument between Mariah Hamilton and Jamel Demons, Melly Montana. Court coming everywhere with me, because if them crackers can grab him, it's my fault, you forgot. I keep Portland with, because at the end of the day, he did one of the realest shit in my life. Yeah, he covered up a murder. Did a very terrible job of it, but that's what he did. That's what this is referring to. This is less than 2 weeks after this homicide occurs, and that's what they're talking about.
Would you gentlemen care to order your
Ladies and
dinner?
gentlemen, you have a confession in this
Bet,
case.
babe, slide a piece of the porter, drinks, I run the
The
job.
defendant, and now look at the time. Remember we talked about the UTC?
I
So
get grease and
subtract
chocolate and butter and
4.
dry through the garden.
So UTC 2,000 hours. You subtract 4 1,600 hours. You do the conversion. So 4 p.m. 4 p.m. I did that with the smiley face, and that's what I said in opening. Context.
I
is
did it.
key.
Shh. I did that. Shh.
The whole floor is coding. Awesome if you work at Google. Terrible at Broward General Hospital. Context is key. So you've learned Peasy Gambino, as you heard from Detective Moretti, is potentially facing federal firearms charges, a gun dealer.
Irrelevant.
Is told by the defendant, I did that. Shh. And look at the messages between Mr. Demons and Mr. Gambino. Peasy Gambino is a blood gang member. He uses all those same information, slang words, changing of the letters that you learned about from Detective Polo. October 26th, he asks to reach out to see how the defendant's doing. And the defendant says, I did that. And to make a spelling that, other times he uses DAT. And gentlemen, you saw the song where he has a song that he's released called THAT in his phone. So again, Instagram and how these all fit together. 6:58 a.m. Jamie King, RN, the defendant's mother. Are you here? I'm in Miami. I'm by the stadium. I'm a mess. I'm so worried. I'm here. Well, remember those CDRs where you get sending her to voicemail? Ladies and gentlemen, this shows that she's trying to contact her son. He is ignoring her, and so she's reaching out to her son, who responds back with, I love you, Mom. I'm good, Mom. Because he had the phone at that point. So the judge read you the law. Anthony Williams is dead, and it was premeditated. Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you the evidence very clearly shows the defendant was caused by Jamel Demons. Same as to Christopher Thomas. Talks about premeditation. Principles. So if, ladies and gentlemen, if you believe that Cortland Henry is charged, but that's for another jury on another day. If Cortland Henry assisted and helped and shot these two individuals to help out Mr. Demons is just as guilty. Because a principal is someone who decides to help before the murder is completed. And you have that with Mr. Henry in making that drive and going out to the edge of the Everglades. You have that. He is a principal to first-degree murder. Mr. Demons is just as guilty, and so is Mr. Henry. So, in my few remaining moments, I want to briefly touch on the unlucky 13, because I'll give Mr. Adelstein, Mr. Henry. He's charged, right? So from all those unlucky 13 people that are listed as suspects, they have one thing in common, and only one thing in common. They made a single online threat. In poor taste? Yes. Any other evidence that ties them to this case? None. No location data. No communication from anyone in that Jeep to say where they were. No DNA of any of those people on that Jeep. No ballistics evidence at their feet where they were sitting in that Jeep. No private confession. Because remember, all of these online threats, they're out there for the public because they're trying to get attention and trying to get some sort of benefit for that for themselves. Distasteful? Yes. A crime? No. There's no drop pins for an emergency pickup from any of those individuals. There's no phone for any of them at any of the scenes in this case. So, motive. We talked long and hard, but we don't have to prove motive. Motive, it's intent. Intent is an action of the mind. So I'll give you motives. Anger. Greed. Resentment. Advancement in the gang. You heard $16 million was coming into Jameson Francois, and that you saw $15,000, $10,000 payments going to Mr. Demings. Simple math. Splitting something 4 ways or 2 ways with Mr. Henry, who wasn't smart enough to even properly give a statement to keep Mr. Demings away from the car. So we have all these pieces of the puzzle that we have just talked about. And each and every one shows how this case has been brought together. Shows the physical evidence. And so, ladies and gentlemen, there's no murder weapon, right? The question that you have to answer, and that you can now answer based on all of this evidence, is that Jamel Demings was sitting in the back seat of that Jeep. And he was the one that fired the fatal shots that killed Christopher Thomas and Anthony Williams. And you know that because even if you choose to disbelieve one part of the evidence, 2 parts of the evidence, you can see what the overall picture is. The overall picture puts Mr. Demings in the back seat of that Jeep. It puts him holding a gun. You don't need a murder weapon to know that he committed these 2 crimes. Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that you serve justice, that you deliberate, and that you return a verdict of guilty as charged as to murder in the 1st degree. Thank you.
Merci, Council Sidebar.
All right. All right, there we go. Wow. All right. So what do you think so far, people? Come on, chat. What do you think? What's going through your mind right now? I think it might be lunchtime. That was abrupt. Let's just put it there. That was abrupt.
Can I see Council Sidebar?
Can I see Council of Sidebar for a second? All right.
Can I see Council Sidebar?
I think he's probably just asking them what they want to do.
operations at this time. The same admonition I gave you before, and every time the rule remains in full force and effect, you are not to discuss the case. Don't form any opinion about the case. Don't allow anyone to discuss the case in your presence. And certainly no research. Just leave your notepads on your chairs and all those jury instructions. And we'll see you back in an hour, 15 minutes. All right, so we'll see everybody back at, let's say, no later than 1:30. All right? Thank you. Nice work.
All right, the defense has wrapped up their case. They're going to be gone for an hour and a half. I'm going to we'll shut the stream down. I'll get a bit of sleep, get an hour or so of sleep, and we'll pick it up where we left off for the afternoon session. This is training for Taylor Shabusiness. That's how I'm looking at this. We're training for the Taylor Shabusiness trial, where it's going to be gavel to gavel, mother effers. We're doing. So, what did you guys think of the state's closing? Let me know in chat what you guys thought. 1 in chat if you thought she did good. 2 if you thought it was bad, and 3 if you're like meh. 1 good, 2 bad, 3 meh. Let me know what you thought. I thought she did a very, very good job of presenting the evidence in a cold, neutral, factual manner. I liked what she was saying. I thought it was good. I thought it connected all of the dots that needed to be connected. Focusing on what she said, I think she proved beyond a reasonable doubt that YNW Melly was the guy that got in the rear driver's side seat. That he was the guy that was there when the murder occurred. He had his phone. He got out of the vehicle shortly before they went to the hospital after the murder. I think she did a very good job of connecting these very, very important dots. Based on what she did, I would convict of first-degree murder with the use of a firearm. I don't think the gang thing has really been proven. To me, they seem like a bunch of posers. So I don't think the gang part has been proven. I would convict first-degree murder with the use of a firearm. But that having been said, I don't like the way she presented it. It was too dull. It was too boring. It was too just blah. It was like if someone gives you a piece of boiled meat without seasoning. It's not a bad piece of meat. It just doesn't taste like anything. And I think that's what she did. She didn't give us a bad closing argument. It was just bland and didn't have any life to it. And I think it may have bored the jury. So, I mean, like, seriously, what do you guys think? Pretty good. Lots of 1s. You think she did a good job? A 3, a meh. There's a didn't do a good job. There's lots of mehs. Some 2s. Flux, of course, with a 69. God damn it, Flux. Well, who's going to be the first one to do a 420? Jesus, you degenerate. Lots of mehs. Okay, I was surprised by that. JKD Buck 69ing there with Flux. That's good. There's a lot of mehs. There's good jobs and mehs. Not a lot of 2s saying she didn't do a good job. All right. Of course, I'll feel shitty, but I'll feel shitty for you guys. I'm doing this for you. I'm sacrificing my body for me. I mean, for you. That's what we got to do. I got my responsibilities. Can't leave my vice squad hanging. We got to do we have to do the defense's closing. And so what's going to happen is the afternoon session, the defense is going to do their stuff. The jury will get the case. They'll decide. They'll probably spend a few hours today. And if they don't come back with a verdict, what's going to happen is they'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow I'm doing Taylor Shabusiness. I'm doing Taylor Shabusiness, the couple of motions. And if they stream the morning session where they're doing the examination to see if she's competent to stand trial, we'll cover that, and jury selection if it's shown. But if they come back with a verdict at any point, we'll break away from Taylor Shabusiness and we'll focus on the YNW Melly verdict. But I am going to take a little bit of a break here in a minute. But I just wanted to hear your views of what you thought about that. Like I said, I thought it was very, very factual. I thought it was very organized. She connected all of the dots that need to be connected, which she should have been doing from the beginning, but they didn't. Like I said, I liked what she said, just not, I wasn't thrilled by how she said it. Valhalla thinks that if the dude on defense closes, which dude, white dude or black dude? I think black dude would do a better job than white dude. White dude gets too weirdly emotional. So I think black dude for the defense would be the best option they have. Of course, I'm covering Taylor's business. You know that, JKD Buck. Yeah, YouTube's chat. Just if you ever have a problem with YouTube's chat, just close Facebook and reopen Facebook. What the fuck? Where did that come from? I must be tired. Just close YouTube and restart it, and that should bring things back. It should. We've currently got 738 people here, 659 likes. That's a lot of you that haven't hit that like button because we've had several 100% turnover. So let me go back through the chat here and see what we've got. I can't go too far back, but I want to check the member chat. Jason J had the member for 4 months. Said good morning, everyone. I mean, that was like right at the very beginning, so cool with that. Brandon Lesko gave us 2 super chats for the Hundies, which was very, very much appreciated. And the Hangry Viking became a new member of the Clean and Sober crew. Stephen Walk also became a member for 1 month of the Clean and Sober crew and says, woo, 1 month. Prefer a dry prosecutor closing rather than emotionally charged like Rudolph's. And that's what the prosecution did. They gave a very dry, she gave a very dry, very unemotional, very factual closing argument. What am I trying to say here? It can be factual and dry, but still be dynamic. It doesn't have to be emotional, but it can still be dynamic. It can still be engaging. It can still make you want to go, okay, what's she going to say next? What's the next thing? What should I be looking for? Oh, that answered that question. It can be dynamic. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be emotional. It doesn't have to be overwrought. But it can still be dynamic and engaging and draw your attention into it. That's what I would like to have seen. But I think if they just listened to what she said, I think it closes the door on any chance he has of being acquitted. Monogamous Apostate's been a new member for 1 month. She's been a new member for the I don't know. Monogamous Apostate. We know you are. You've been a member for 1 month of the Clean and Sober crew. All right, that's all the member chats and memberships that have come up. And we have 2 super chats here. One from Justin Parrish. Did the police rule out a murder-suicide cover-up? Just spitballing an alternative. I don't remember hearing about it. Just thinking guilty, though. That was never an issue. It was whether it was murder-suicide. That had nothing to do with it. That would be weird. So that wasn't an argument. It was never an issue. It was never suggested. There's nothing along those lines. So, yeah. And Sonny or Chris, thank you so much for your super chat. May just be the way my mind works. I prefer information, not emotion. Again, yes, she gave information, not a lot of emotion. But again, you can separate. You can have something that's not emotional, but is also dynamic and engaging. She missed the engaging part, I thought. Phoebe Purvis, way back about an hour ago, said, Legal Vice says, I have a question about yesterday's video regarding how to cook a gay steak. Why were you sitting near a motorway? And who is the lady with the painted toenails? I was actually not sitting next to a motor. I've answered that several times in the chat section of the video. Let me get rid of this. We don't need this. They're at lunch. Dog butt. All right. I've answered this several times in the video. If you didn't see it, I uploaded a video how to cook steak like a man. It was a lighthearted thing. It was for reasons. But I was camping. It was at the camping ground, and the way this campground is set up is there's this campground and this lovely little grove of trees, and then there's a very, very tiny. And this is in the middle of nowhere, Korea. To get to an expressway, to get to a motorway, you've got about 30 minutes. There's one tiny little village and another tiny little village, and this is a tiny little 1-lane road between the 2 villages. There's the campground I was in, this tiny 1-lane highway, 1-lane road, not highway, this 1-lane road, and then the ocean. That's all there is. And for some reason, when I uploaded this steak video and I was recording it at the campground, there was 4 or 5 cars that went by. And I remember when I was editing this, I was thinking, holy crap, where did all of those cars come from? Oh, come on. See, we finally got some bots here in chat screaming with this weird, see, this is the funny thing. We have Rob Gruler went to law school that doesn't exist. I don't even know who the fuck Rob Gruler is, and Vices is lame. Yeah, I'm lame. But you know who's more than lame? Everybody except for JKD Buck that blocked that. I don't even know what that was, but all right. Weird. That was weird. All right. Anywho, right. Let's go back to this. What was I saying? Oh yeah, this campground. It was just a thing. It's literally this tiny little one lane road between 2 villages. But for some reason, when I was making this video, there was a bunch of cars that went by. And I was thinking to myself when I edited the video, where the hell did all these cars come from? So yeah, it's actually not next to a motorway. It's not next to an expressway. It's this tiny little road. So it just looked weird. Like I was camping next to a highway or something, but I wasn't. It's actually in the middle of freaking nowhere, South Korea, in this tiny little grove of trees between 2 villages that are about, 6 kilometers, about, 3 kilometers apart. I mean, 3 miles apart. And it's just like campground, road, beach, ocean. That's it. Yeah, it was weird. I guess I should take off the cut cage, right? All right, we'll do that. So yeah, that's been brought up a couple of times by people in chat on that video, in the comments in that video. It really wasn't on the highway. It was just this weird moment. And that's why I love that campground, because there's never cars there. It's so quiet and deserted and empty. But just for some weird reason, while I was making that video, about I won't say a billion, more like 4 or 5 cars went by. I put user in timeout, ban user, blah, blah, blah. All right. We have more cheap sex than Tinder, says the porn bot. You can do better than that. All right. Yeah. Joe Biden's America. Vices is lame. We've already established I'm lame. All right. For me to wrap this up, I'm going to have to go to the... Hang on. Let me put this in members only shit chat here. I'm sorry I have to do this. But if I don't do that, we'll never get this thing clear. And it's weird. They just show up right when I'm trying to shut this stupid thing down. So hang on just a quick second. Ugh. Bot. Wait, that was yesterday's. We don't. Excuse me for just a moment, people. Right. Here we go. That's what I'm looking for. Customization. Live chat, subscribers for 5 minutes, save. That'll give me 5 minutes to shut this down. Right, there we go. All right. Got that world's crisis problem solved. Sorry about that, everybody. The bots had to be dealt with. All right. As I was saying, so that's the answer to that question. I was not cooking steak and camping on the side of a freeway. It was just this weird, tiny little road between 2 tiny villages that just happened to have 4 or 5 cars drive by while I was doing it. So that's the answer to that question. Grant Rasha says, Legal Vices in your best Pee Wee Herman voice, sing Connect the Dots, la la la. I don't know the tune, but connect the dots. Hey, everybody. And that's Kermit. We don't want to do Kermit the Frog. We need Pee Wee Herman here. That's a Pee Wee Herman laugh. I can't do a Pee Wee Herman right now. I can do the laugh, and that's about it. Okay. All right. There we go. No, that's weird. Connect the dots. Oh, fuck. All right. I'm sorry. I have to pull the ripcord on the Pee Wee Herman impression. It just is not working today. Okay, everybody. Shauna says, yes, I will. That doesn't work. Sorry. No Pee Wee Herman today. God damn it. So, yeah, anybody that comes to Korea, free drinks on me. Hit me up on Twitter. The Legal Vices at Twitter. We'll work something out. Drinks on me if you come to South Korea. Lisa Franceschi asks, what is there to do and see in South Korea? Oh my God, that could go on forever. There's so much amazing stuff. There's the beaches, there's the temples, there's the amazing museums, there's all the historical places. Korea has like 5,000 years of history. There's so much to see and do here. It's quite amazing, really. I can't answer that in a super chat, but yeah, just come here and find out. Come over here and find out. We'll deal with it. And Marta C, she always speaks like she's talking to children. This is the prosecutor. She always speaks like she's talking to children, and she's somehow more superior to the rest of the people in the room. I had an issue with her speech from the beginning. I don't know her. I know nothing about her, but I would assume she is a mother. Why? Because it's a weird thing. And I'm not saying this to be sexist. I'm not saying this to be derogatory, but women are teachers by nature. Men are providers and fixers. We provide things and we fix things. Women are the teachers. They're the educators. They're the ones that raise the children. So it's like women, especially women with children. And I saw my own ex-wife change from when it was just us to when it was the child. She developed as a great number of women into this teaching role where it's always like, okay, and now we're going to teach you the next stage. We're going to go through this. We're going to follow this. And then this is going to happen, to where even though they're talking about important things, they still deliver it in the style of a mother teaching her children. It's a thing. It's just, and it's not good. It's not bad. It's just kind of the way it is. And so that's why, I have a really difficult time watching TED Talk things with women, because you'll get some dynamic power CEO woman who will just come and go, and then this is the one thing we have to do, and now everybody, now then this happened, then this way, it's a thing, and I think that's why I'm saying I think she's I would just guess I would put money on her being a mother, because she has that educator, not the prosecutor thing in her voice. No, it's not annoying. It's just a thing. Women are teachers. Oh, sorry. And it's annoying when they talk like that. Well, it's annoying from the receiver's point of view. But by and large, it's like corn pups is so naturally annoying. No, that's not what it is at all. It's not naturally annoying. It's just a state of being. It's a thing. And Chandler B. Handler has just showed up. Chandler Remington has just showed up now that we're ending the stream. Hello, chat, Jeff and Strawberry. Well, welcome, Chandler. 11, 12, 1, 3.5 hours late. So I think it's just a thing she's doing. And again, I can be completely off base, but just from my own anecdotal experience, when women become mothers, they develop this teaching voice, not the instructing voice, not the commanding voice. They develop the instructing voice. The teaching voice. And that's kind of what she's doing. She's doing the mommy voice. But anyway, here or there, whatever, that's just my thoughts. Trash talk and talking trash and truth. Thank you so much. Just came by to say hi and drop a like. Awesome hat, Jeff. Thanks. This is my Pale Rider replica hat from Miller Hats in Houston, Texas. We'll be visiting the Aussie Overlord Flux, and I will be visiting the mothership, the millerhats.com store, while we're in Houston 3 weeks from now. That'll be fun. Excuse me. All right, so everybody here, how many people do we have left? We have 600 people here left. What we're going to do now is we're going to shut this down for an hour. I'll be back in an hour, I hope. If I'm not back in an hour, I'm sleeping peacefully and I've blown this off. If I am back in an hour, we'll do the closing arguments by the defense. So, all right, everybody, I just want to give a super special shout out and thanks to everybody, all the mods. You guys are fantastic. All of the Legal Vices chat, the Vice Squad that's here now, to Chandler Remington, who just joined us 3.5 hours late as it's time to shut down. Chandler, I'll send you the new link. So everybody, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification, because hopefully, if everything goes well, about 45, 50 minutes from now, I will be putting a new link up for the afternoon session for the defense's closing arguments. And in the meantime, we're going to shut us down here. I am going to redirect you to The Broken Baker, a newish channel from a Dutch professional. Did I say Dutch? Danish, I believe Danish. A Danish professional juror. Because Denmark's weird. He's doing the Illinois versus Bradley Yohn trial. Sovsit defending himself against charges of robbing and SAing a 78-year-old woman. The guy probably needs to die for that. He was found guilty, but the Broken Baker will teach us more about that. So make sure we're going to send you over to there. Tell him Legal Vices said hi, and I will be back hopefully in about 50 minutes from now with a new link to the afternoon session. Mods, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Chat, thank you from the bottom of my heart. The Vice Squad is the best squad, the best chat on the entire internet. You guys are great. And thank you so much for the generosity and support you've shown, particularly Let's Go Brandon, who is the Vice Racks of the day with two $100 super chats. We'll be back soon. I'll just pre-apologize in case I'm not here 45 minutes, 50 minutes from now. We'll catch up sometime tomorrow, but hopefully it'll be good. I'm going to go to sleep right now. So take care, everybody. Love y'all. We'll see you back. Tell the Broken Baker Legal Vices sent you, and tell him hi, and we'll see you later. Larax out.